Production by Liang Gu, Zhao Ziyue, author, Lao Shi. First. 1. There are several apartments behind the Bell and Drum Tower. One of them is called Tiantai. The two bright brass signs outside the rooftop apartment door are 3 feet long and 9 inches wide. They are engraved with exclusively rents students and provides meals. In fact, the business of the rooftop apartment is not restricted by these two signs. Is it exclusively for renting to students? When there is a vacant house, people from all walks of life are equally welcome as students. Meals are provided. Unless the guests think they are too fat and want to eat less meat, no one is willing to eat the included meals in the apartment, even though the meals and rent are paid at the same time. The business of the rooftop apartment will not decrease just because it fulfills what is stated on the sign. Only if it does not just entertain students, students will come more enthusiastically. Only if the food is not good, the residents can enjoy benefits that cannot be enjoyed in other apartments. For example, take two small things. The guest wants to fork the sparrow. The owner of the apartment can invite 1 or 2 beautiful girls to accompany him. When the guests want to drink, the boss can provide them with authentic, tax-evacuated, Zhao knives, shipped from northern Beijing using pig urine. There are about 30 guests living in the rooftop apartment, although there are only 20 rooms. Because there are 2 guests staying in 1 room, but no one staying in 2 rooms. These 20 guest rooms are neither in 1 courtyard, nor are they divided into 3 courtyards. To put it more eclectically, they are divided into 2 courtyards, to be more novel. It is divided into 2 parts, inner and outer. There is a section of pink board wall between the 2 volumes, on which some characters, ghosts, and foxes are painted. Some people say that the painting is a story from Strange Stories from a Chinese studio. Unfortunately, I have yet to meet anyone who dares to say that the painting is actually the section from Liao Zhai. The structures of the inside and outside are greatly different. The outside is a neat triple room, with 5 north, south and west rooms each. The inside is 2 north rooms and 3 west rooms, a total of 20 guest rooms, and 3.5 south rooms, storage room, cabinet room, kitchen and toilet. The owner of the apartment often tells guests who have an archaeological bent, before the apartment opened, this was originally a house for 2 families, separated by a broken brick boundary wall. The current section of the pink board wall is the former site of the boundary wall. In addition, he often said with tears in his eyes, when the boundary wall was demolished, a small bronze bodhisattva was discovered from the base of the wall. He sold the bodhisattva for $3 foreign. Later, it was resold to an American and he sold it for 600 yuan. The group of people who have archaeology addiction today. Thinking about it makes me sad for the apartment owner, but few people ask which dynasty the little Buddha statue belongs to. Because of this structure, guests call the outside the Forbidden City and the inside the concession. One is because of its neatness and seriousness. One is because it is scattered and quiet. This proves the fact that the terms Forbidden City and concession are used quite playfully and appropriately. The houses on the outside are neat and tidy. 2 of the 15 houses are even leak-proof even if it rains. The rent is slightly high, and the residence naturally, it has some aristocratic air. Inside, the terrain is secluded and is best used as a place to play cards and drink. It is called a concession, which I believe is appropriate. Even that half of the toilet can be used as a foreign hospital when the guests do not want to see their friends or creditors, as if. Inside, the terrain is secluded and is best used as a place to play cards and drink. It is called a concession, which I believe is appropriate. Even that half of the toilet can be used as a foreign hospital when the guests do not want to see their friends or creditors, as if a retreat for politicians. 2. It is really difficult to describe the characters in Rooftop Apartment. First, the residents came and went, except for a few who did not have the habit of moving frequently as a form of exercise. Rarely do you stay here for a year and a half. Secondly, each guest has a special physical structure and innate characteristics. If we want to explain it in detail in an impartial way, we should write a biography for them. And that biography will not be uninteresting, because every person's life has a special flavor. The big boy Wang in the inner courtyard loves to sing, beheading the yellow robe, and the little son Mingyuan in the outer courtyard coughs like a firecracker. Big guy Wang sang, beheading the yellow robe, in the middle of the night to resist son Mingyuan's continuous coughing. Even these little things are worthy of writing a novel, and to talk about the little things, Boss Chui's long pipe. The short-sleeved, long-breasted, wide-collared blue cloth shirt worn by handyman Li Shun is also worth describing. However, to select the important and discard the light, we still have to simply write. Although we know that the truth of the Rooftop Apartment is not as simple as what we wrote. When we talk about a person or a thing, Wang Dogwa's beheading the yellow robe and Sun Mingyuan's cough should be hanging in our ears. Boss Chui's big tobacco bag and Li Shun's historically valuable blue cloth shirt should be flashing in front of his eyes. In this way, we may be able to appreciate some of the complexities of rooftop apartments. When old ladies buy persimmons, they pick big ones. When historians write history, they choose characters with red beards and blue indigo faces. Even novelists often suffer from this snobbery problem. Although novelists, compared with old ladies and historians, often home is smarter. We know that big persimmons may not be astringent, and people with red beards and indigo faces may not be heroes. No matter how we put it, we have to select a few of the characters in the rooftop apartment to write about. 3. The exterior of the rooftop apartment is number 3, the one among the 5 north rooms, which is the largest and is recognized as the Golden Palace of the rooftop apartment. The owner of number 3 also seems to regard himself as the leader of the internal and external alliance. The owner of number 3 is the oldest resident of the rooftop apartment. The history of the rooftop apartment is clearly imprinted in his mind. Every move he makes has an impact on the overall situation of the apartment. Not only that, the owner of number 3 was a most amiable and courteous gentleman. Needless to say, he was polite to his friends, and he never said a bad word to his servants, except sometimes the tea was too weak and the wine was too hot. He praised the servants several times with a golden voice, "Asshole." Not only that, the owner of number 3 is the author of Introduction to Ma Pai and Principles of Huang Criticism. Apartment guests didn't just love him. I am also very proud to live with such a scholar. Not only that, the owner of number 3 studied philosophy, literature, chemistry, sociology, and botany at a university, Mingjing University, for 3 months in each subject. He doesn't want a diploma or a degree, he just studies for the sake of knowledge. Not only that, the owner of number 3 is a filial son to his parents, although he has more non-filial, new ideas than he has in his head. He writes at least 2 letters to his parents every month. In addition to urging for remittances, he also writes best wishes, June, as usual. Not only that. The last name of the owner of number 3? Ranking first in 100 family surnames, Zhao. His name? Standing on the head of the first chapter of The Analects, the master said. Everything about Mr. Zhao Ziyue is consistent with his name. His nose is the number one in the sky, pointed, high. Not an ugly eagle nose. His eyes were the unique bitch eyes inherited from his ancestors. His mouth is truly a wide and long beigey mouth. An eagle's nose, dog's eyes, and a pig's mouth, plus a bright red and bloody human heart with exquisite orifices, complete a man who is the soul of all things. And Zhao Zi, the spirit among men, said, not only was he so rich in what he received from heaven, but he also went to great lengths in all the human things he did. His leather robe, which passed from Frost Descent to May 7th National Humiliation Anniversary, and the snow-white wheat ears that were half a foot long, authentic Westgate Liaoyangskin. His leather shoes are absolutely new, made from British leather and made in Japan. They are cowhide shoes that are cold in winter and hot in summer. They smell bad from far and near. Don't compare with others in morality, knowledge, speech, and everything else. There is no need to compare. He will always be the first. He doesn't want a diploma, a degree. Sometimes you can also say, if we want a degree, we don't want a PhD in philosophy or literature. We want the world's best, all-encompassing doctorate. There were two things that he was slightly dissatisfied with. The room he lived in was number 3. After reading all the names of others, I finally found the 3 big characters, Zhao Ziyue, that was full of ink, and I was a little unhappy. However, a big twist. The guests all called the 3rd number Jinluan Palace. The meaning of natural number 1 is embedded in it. As for being at the bottom of the list, he looked in the mirror and encouraged himself, reading backwards is not number 1. Then that bit of unhappiness, that bit like a snowflake, had no place to stand. There is another unhappy thing, which is not as easy to eliminate as the first two. His wife, 10 years ago, Zhao Zi said he got married at the age of 15, was really the chief beauty with small feet in the 9 heavens immortal mansion. Within 3 months of his marriage, he was moved by love. There is another unhappy thing, which is not as easy to eliminate as the first two. His wife, 10 years ago, Zhao Zi said he got married at the age of 15, was really the chief beauty with small feet in the 9 heavens immortal mansion. Within 3 months of his marriage, he was moved by love. She wrote 107-character quatrains to praise her pair of little golden lotuses. Now, by chance, at the used bookstall in Longfu Temple, you can buy a copy of The Collection of Little Feet by Zhao for 3 coppers. But nowadays, people not only no longer regard the narrow golden lotus as beautiful, but also denigrate it as ugly when they say the same thing in the same rhyme. Therefore, Zhao Ziyue, the sage of the hour, of course had to follow people to change the concept of beauty. The more he looked at the pictures of naked Western beauties hanging outside the photo studio in Dong'an Market, the more sad he became about the ugly girl stored in his home. He was originally a scholar with broad horizons and a noble mind, so he only honestly appreciated true beauty. I only diligently search for the true meaning of life and do not believe in any ghost-filled religion. Unfortunately, after discovering the shortcomings of his head, or rather, horse, his wife, he regretted it and turned to religion in order to seek some spiritual comfort. His object of faith is not Buddha, Confucius, Marx, or the 9-tailed fox, but the selfless king of hell of the 5 palaces. After drinking, he felt that some spiritual cultivation was necessary. He really prayed on the ground with piety. Please send the soul-chasing kid to quickly recall the bitch, so that the kid can enjoy the sweetness of love with a new type of beauty. Long live Yen Jun. Amen. After praying, his heart felt much lighter and his eyesight became much brighter. It was as if his soul had taken a bath in the seven treasures lotus pond. His little-footed enemy, in his half-closed eyes, flew to hell like a black line, then thousands of golden lights, thousands of auspicious colors, and countless reform fairies floated down from the sky. His heart returned to its original position, and the blood around his body flowed smoothly. He felt that there was a Siemens electric lamp with a power of 120 candles in front of him, bright hope. He wanted to comfort himself from boredom. Come on. Be more refreshing and refreshing. So, Jinwan Palace. The 2 bottles of soju were pierced directly into the depths of his soul by Zhao Ziyue's thick lips. Poor Zhao Zi said. Second. 1. Number 3 is almost the public meeting hall of the rooftop apartment. Firstly, it is where Zhao Ziyue's power lies. The call is worthy. Secondly, number 3 is the most spacious house in the whole apartment. Number 3's gatherings are the same as those in the wild woods. From a distance, they appear to be a patchwork of green bushes, but up close, pine, locust tree, elm, and willow each have their own characteristics, the same. From a distance, their conversation sounds like a group of drunkards playing music and making noise. From a close perspective, they each have their own independent opinions and arguments. You said yesterday's whiteboard fishing list was so crispy. I saw one on the ground. The first person didn't finish his sentence. The second person said. The shopkeeper dong. The word horse for the yellow gelding should not be played in a fancy way. When Tan Jingtian was alive. The second person didn't finish, and the third person said. Der Xiaozui and Zhang Xingren had a falling out. Originally. The third person didn't finish, and the fourth person said. You think I'd better join the literature department? Or is it better to major in philosophy? My nature is close to. Before the fourth person finished speaking, everyone shouted together. Don't talk about academic matters. The discussion of number 3 continued like this until everyone's attention was focused on one point. The owner of number 3 began to pack away the tea bowls and ink cartridges. And anything else that can be used as a weapon. Because when the problem is concentrated, the teacup ink cartridge will soar. The owner of number 3 was not necessarily timid and afraid of bloodshed, but because the tea bowl was broken and no one was responsible for compensation. The number 3 gathering, honestly speaking, is not always like this. When a major accident occurs in the country, society, or school, everyone can really discuss relief methods together. Unfortunately, there are fights sometimes. The owner of number 3 is also willing to sacrifice a few tea bowls for the country and society. 2. It's late at night, and if the bells of the bell and drum towers hadn't been talking in their sleep, representing the shabby and sleepy Beijing, the city of Beijing would have been as silent as a big dead cow. The ghostly wind blew a few snowflakes that were not yet very mature, like a few naughty little white moths, flying under the electric light. Although it was only the beginning of winter, the patrolman standing on the street was so cold that he shrunk his neck and ran into the wind shelter. This kind of silence is not felt in the rooftop apartment. As a result of getting enough sleep in the classroom during the day, the residents are not only not sleepy at night, but also appear to be extra energetic. Wang Dagua's Beheading the Yellow Robe has been sung from beginning to end 3 times. In order to please the big man Wang, Sun Mingyuan declared that he would cough instead of cheering. There was a lively game of sparrows in the courtyard, with the desperate losers throwing their cards at each other, while the winner smiled and put his hand on the edge of the table to make the decision for the big man. In the south room of the outer courtyard, a philosopher with a small nose and small eyes and a geographer with a big nose and big eyes were debating whether the earth was round or square. The debate between the two reached no result, so the question was changed to the discussion. Should people have big noses and big eyes, or small noses and small eyes? Only old man Fong in the north room was soundly asleep. He was the only one who could sleep in this environment because he was deaf. In the third number, 8 circles of sparrows are completed. Start a meeting about the strike. Zhao Ziri was sitting on the bed with 2 pillows under his hips. Zhou Shaolian and Wu Duan were sitting on the edge of the bed. There were 2 people sitting on the chairs, Mo Danian and Ouyang Tianfeng. There are about 30 guests living in the rooftop apartment. Now there are only these 5 people in the third meeting. Firstly, because the guests do not all belong to the same university. Secondly, even if they are alumni of the same university, due to differences in provincial boundaries and party affiliations, if there can be more than 10 people meeting. It is also obviously unreasonable. Zhou Shaolian is a very old young man, with a stooped waist like a small silver lobster. His thin yellow face looks like a small dried orange. The 2 small eyes always look like they are smiling, and the tip of their nose is red and they always look like they have just finished crying. It seems like a smile but not a smile. It looks like crying but not crying, which makes people unable to have certain emotions when looking at it. The delicate voice is like that of a 7 or 8-year-old girl, but the sound of the voice is definitely not something that a child can achieve. The wrinkles on my eyebrows really look like they are 40 or 50 years old. There was no stubble on his lips. In short, it is concluded that he is at least 7 years old and at most 50 years old, or there is nothing wrong with it. He studied philosophy, but he spent all his time writing new poems. He himself said. He expressed his philosophy in new poetry. Unfortunately, after people read his new poems, they became even more confused for some reason. When he opens his mouth, he writes new poetry, and when he closes his mouth, he writes philosophy. There are no witty verses, and he doesn't speak when it's time for him to speak. There are beautiful poems. He had to speak when he wasn't supposed to. Now he was wearing a gray cotton robe and an old blue serge suit. This not only brings out a somewhat new flavor, but the suit also has many pockets. You can put some extra notes of poems written down at any time to avoid being scattered and lost. As for Wu and Mo, they both majored in economics. They heard that the boss of Western Bank and the company managers were all economic experts. They also heard 9 out of 10 bank bosses and company managers are bald, have double chins, and have big bellies. A half-foot-long gold watch chain hangs across their bellies. Therefore, both of them also straighten their backs, bulge their bellies, and shrink their necks to show off the flesh on their necks. Although there are many differences between the two, the easiest thing to see is, Mo Danian's face is as red as a shrinking sunrise, while Butuan's face is as yellow as an autumn moon. Mo Danian's red face was as plump as a little fat man. People also called him Little Fatty. Butuan also had a lot of yellow face and flesh, but no one thought of calling him Little Fatty. Some people really want to call him Little Swollen, but find it difficult to say it, even though bloated and fat are almost the same. Mo Danian had a big heart and a fat body. Whatever is in the heart, the mouth speaks. Butuan was careful and fat. He kept good things in his heart but said bad things with his mouth, because the bad words were listened to. Mo Danian wears a fat cotton robe and a wide-sleeved mandarin jacket, like the young shopkeeper of a silk and satin shop. Butuan is a blue wool suit. Yellow French-style leather shoes, every move has a foreign flavor. As for Ouyang Tianfeng, he has been in college preparatory school for less than 7 years, about 2 semesters short. He has an attitude of never getting tired of learning and reviewing the past to learn new things. I'm afraid that if they upgrade rashly, the foundation won't be solid. He and Zhao Ziyue's method of studying every 3 months is fundamentally different, but their attitude of studying for the sake of learning is equally admirable. His appearance, clothing. More than 10 times more beautiful than Zhao Ziyue, but the two of them are inseparable good friends. Zhao Zi said that only by getting along with a handsome person like Ouyang can he be calm and unaware of his own ugliness. Only when Ouyang Tianfeng gets along with an ugly person like Zhao Ziyue can he be at peace with his own beauty. The two of them are like the pair of generals Hum and Ha standing in front of the temple, but they are different and complement each other. There is one more difference between the two of them. When Zhao entered school, he took foreign money from his family and lost it by playing mahjong, 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 and playing mahjong, playing mahjong, and playing mahjong. Not only did Ouyang not have to take money out of his pocket, but he had to pay his tuition because he made money. If the Work-Study Mutual Aid Association wants to give medals to people who are working part-time, then there is no doubt that the gold medal should be given to Ouyang Tianfeng. Their economic policies are fundamentally different. But the relationship between them became closer on the mahjong field. Zhao Zi said that if he lost money to Ouyang Tianfeng, besides thinking that forking mahjong was the most noble game, Zhao Zi felt that he had invisibly done a charity. 3. Opening of session number 3. Li Shun. Chairman Zhao Zi said, sitting on the bed and shouting like a little roller coaster, Li Shun. Li Shun. No answer. Li Shun, the chairman's face sank, and he became fierce. No answer. Why call Li Shun? Mo Danian asked. By melon seeds and cigarettes. Without these two things, I cannot be the chairman. Zhao Ziyue raised his eyebrows and said solemnly. It's late, he probably fell asleep. Mo Danian said and looked at the small gold watch on his fat wrist. No, it's 2:10. We are awake. The handyman can't sleep. The chairman said angrily. Don't blame Li Shun, Mo Danian stupidly explained for Li Shun. Isn't 8 hours of work a common labor restriction? Don't talk about theory yet. He should sleep and we should not eat melon seeds. The chairman pushed Fatty Mo back with his confident words. There was silence in the room for a moment. Regardless of theory, Mo Danian lowered his head and said to himself, let's talk about humanity. Okay, the chairman said, Old Mo, I listen to you, be humane, and don't eat melon seeds. As for cigarettes, don't you think ... I have. Come. Eat one. Butuan opened the silver cigarette case briskly and handed it to Zhao Zi. The chairman bent his neck slightly and took a cigarette. The cigarette was burning, and his anger gradually dissipated with the fragrance spraying from his mouth. I still poor in self-cultivation. The chairman shook his head and said regretfully, I can't stop getting angry. Your work, Lao Mo, will always be as good as that of Kong Xingren. Okay, now it's time to discuss our affairs. I said, why doesn't Lao Li come? Okay. Can Lao Li have a meeting with us? Butuan said slowly, guess what? Humph. Lao Li will never approve of a strike, so it would be a good idea not to come. Chairman. Zhou Shaolian was already in the mood for poetry. He opened his mouth like a catfish and spoke in an unpopular little shrill voice. He spoke first. Butuan said slowly, "Guess what? Humph. Laoli will never approve of a strike, so it would be a good idea not to come." Chairman. Zhou Shaolian was already in the mood for poetry. He opened his mouth like a catfish and spoke in an unpopular little shrill voice. He spoke first. "This strike is necessary. Look. Look how cold those gray professors are. Look. Look at the principal's sword-like order, how serious it is. If we do not resist, we will lose the flower of freedom in our hearts and the song of the nighthawk in our ears. Be opposed to. Oppose imperial examinations. Imperialist orders." He took a deep breath and continued, "From a literary point of view, this is my opinion." He took another breath. "As for the methods and steps, they are not something that the tide marks in my mind can soak into. Although, objection. Lao Zhou's words are extremely clear." The chairman said. Then he looked at the cigarette in his hand. "It belongs to my sister. The more you eat it, the less it tastes." He curled his lips and threw the cigarette to the ground. "Old Zhao, you forgot that it is Lao Wu's golden shredded tobacco, snow-white cigarette paper, with foreign characters printed on it. Cigarettes containing nicotine, right?" Zhou Shaolian took the opportunity to show off his poetic talent, and had no intention of stirring up trouble. "I deserve to die." The chairman remembered that it was Butuan's cigarette and swore an apology with tears in his eyes. "Old Wu. You don't blame me, of course. I want to curse your cigarettes. My sister, I am not a human being." Snort. "If it weren't for Lao Zhou, I would have been fine with this scolding." Butuan's face turned slightly red. He put his hands in his trouser pockets, straightened his back and said, "Guess what? Heroes create laughter and scolding create heroes. Without scolding, how can a hero be born?" "I'm scolding you, Chairman. Come on. Look at me." Mo Danian smiled and explained to them, "It's important to discuss our matters, Ouyang. It's your turn to speak, don't listen to them." Ouyang Tianfeng was about to speak, but was stopped by the chairman. "Lao Wu. You watch. From now on, I will no longer smoke cigarettes. Smoke contains nicotine, a toxin." The chairman not only regretted scolding someone by mistake, but also really remembered the harmful effects of smoking. "Everyone. If you see me smoking again in the future, kick me away." He looked at Wu Duan speechless, and then said to Ouyang Tianfeng, "Yes. It's time to listen to you." "I don't look at it from literature," Ouyang Tianfeng said with a smile on his face, his eyebrows wrinkled in one place, like a half-angry, handsome, angry and smiling ancient Greek god. "I think about it factually. The principal, teachers, and staff were all afraid of being beaten. They have to take the exam. Let's fight." After that, he rolled up the sleeves of his leather robe, revealing a pair of fists that looked like small white meat buns. The green veins on his pink face swelled up like a few tender green lotus stems in a watercolor painting. The fierce words uttered from the pretty mouth are like a blooming flower, which makes the people watching fall in love without daring to have any hint of playfulness. Ouyang is absolutely right. Absolutely right. The chairman clapped his hands like crazy and shouted while pulling his neck. "It's more intense than holding a Kuan-ling in the theater. We have many reasons and facts to oppose the principal. Butuan said, based on his background, guess what, he is not qualified to be a principal. His father, pay attention, his father was pushing a cart and selling cloth. Do you know? Having said this, he looked around. He felt extremely proud, as happy as an explorer who discovered a golden island in the desert sea. Guess what, in the spirit of equality and republic, we cannot ask the son of a cloth seller to be the principal. What Lao Wu said is absolutely right. The chairman said, and after speaking, he let out 2 long and deep yawns. Everyone was so excited by the chairman that they started to yawn. Everyone. Do you agree? Open a window to get some fresh air? Mo Danian asked. No one answered. Mo Danian stood up, dusted the cigarette ashes on his lapel with the hand that was about to reach out to the window, and sat down again. No one cares about you, Red. Lao Mo. Zhou Shaolian used a poet's observation ability to see that Mo Danian's face was as red as rouge. Chairman. Mo Danian muttered, I'm sleepy. Your opinions are mine. You can discuss it, and I'm going to sleep. Holy Chairman. Forgive me. My black and white eyes can no longer resist the enveloping power of the upper and lower eyelids. Zhou Shaolian followed Mo Danian out. Old Mo. Lao Zhou. See you tomorrow, said the chairman. Chairman. Ouyang Tianfeng shouted energetically. We cannot leave without results. I want to ask if everyone agrees with fighting. Everyone. We decided, fight. The chairman said, when the plenary meeting is held in the future, I will say on behalf of the Jackie friends in the rooftop apartment, fight. Yes or no? There is no other way. Ouyang Tianfeng said, no. Mo Danian and Zhou Shaolian had already walked into the courtyard, and Xiaoxue, who was washing themselves, actually covered the ground with white. Zhou Shaolian jumped on his feet and shouted in a high-pitched voice. Old Zhao. Why don't you come out to see the early winter snow? Snow. It's white. Really, Lao Zhou? Zhao Ziyue jumped out of bed and ran outside. Wu Duan and Ouyang Tianfeng also followed. Ouyang Tianfeng was afraid of the cold, so he ran into his house holding his shoulders like a cute kitten. Zhao Ziyue and Butuan both stretched out their arms and inhaled the snow breath deeply. A snowflake was actually sucked into Zhao Ziyue's nose, turning into a small drop of water and falling on his wide and thick lips. Haha. Interesting. Zhou Shaolian stood on the steps and thought hard about poems. After thinking for a long time, he finally remembered 2 lines of ancient poems. Adding 1 or 2 empty words counts as a new poem, while shaking his head and humming. Beishue, I've committed a crime. Changsha. Hu Shuiyo, it's cold. Wanjia. Zhao Zi said the next sentence, and then said, isn't that right, Lao Zhou? Do sure. Do sure. Old Zhao. Gray Hu Yun is the right one. After Zhou Shaolian finished speaking, he walked into the room quite unhappy. Lao Wu. Zhao Ziyue put down Zhou Shaolian and asked Wu Duan, do you have any more cigarettes? Kick him away. Ouyang Tianfeng shouted in the room with a smile. Kick me? You? Careful that I hurt your little white toes. As long as people can laugh and smile, nothing can be said. Zhao Zi said, then he burst into laughter. Third. 1. The small foreign clock on the table dinged 6 times. Zhao Ziyue opened his eyes bravely. Rise. He thought to himself, go to the park to watch the snow. The old cypress trees have white beards, and the red walls wear white collars. It's beautiful. It's also good for the body. The door to the south room opened. Zhao Ziyue shouted angrily from under the quilt, "Old Li! What are you doing? Go on the snow." Li Jingchun answered, "Wait a minute, let's go together. I'll wait for you at the front gate of the park. The snow is not very deep. I'm afraid it will melt away as soon as the sun comes up," Li Jingchun said as he walked into the courtyard. "Okay. See you at the small grass pavilion west of the water pavilion," Zhao Zi replied. "The street door is open." Zhao Zi said that it was true. His interest increased even more. Just talk about it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, snow, tread. He drew several white circles in his mind. The white circle turned smaller and smaller, and the eyes gradually close in one place as the white circle shrinks. Close your eyes, red pine. Green snow, gray Jia Bolan, staged havoc in the park. The sun slowly poked its head out of the gray clouds that had never dispersed, and drops of water gradually fell from the eaves. Li Shun came in to raise the fire and interrupted Zhao Ziyue's sweet dream. "Li Shun. When is it? It's past 8 o'clock. Gentlemen. Is the sky clear?" Zhao Ziyue's head is still buried in the quilt filled with homemade sweet and sour charcoal gas. "The sun is so high, sir. Have to. Wait until you step into the mud." Zhao Zi said sadly but not sadly, "But it's not bad to sleep a little longer. Today is Thursday. I don't have any homework in the morning, so sleep. It's so hot, white potatoes." Chun Er outside the door, a man from the Han Army's Xianglan banner who used to be the Marquis of Dongling, and now sells boiled sweet potatoes, shouted like a small copper bell. "My sisters. Can't you just shout?" Zhao Zi said that he was looking for the moon in the sea, and he shrank his head deeply into the quilt. "If you don't sit at home on a cold day, you will get scolded if you come out. Chestnut flavor, so hot." This sound is almost like shouting blocking the door of number 3's room. "I won't sleep." Zhao Zi said with anger, "If you don't go out and beat you to death, your surname is not Zhao." He sat up in a hurry, put on his clothes and pants, got down to the ground, put on his leather robe, and ran out. "Mr. Zhao. It's a real chestnut competition," Chun Er said with a smile. "Take care of me. My husband, the god of wealth. Spring 2. Come on, sir. Let's see if our sweet potatoes are pretty. Come on, sir. Where can I pick out some dried meat for you?" Zhao Ziyue nodded and walked over slowly. He looked at the sweet potato pot. It was a pot of really delicate yellow sweet potatoes. It's cooked until it's sizzling with small bubbles with golden rings and silver eyes. "How much does that piece of pot heart cost?" Zhao Zi said, licking his upper and lower lips, and swallowed a mouthful of thick saliva that had been left intact overnight. "Dare you bargain with me, sir?" "Okay. Feel free to reward me." Haruji's words are sweeter than his sweet potato. If there are two factions in the white potato world, white potato sellers and white potato talkers, Haruji certainly belongs to the latter faction. Zhao Ziyue couldn't help but felt it was not worth it, so he smiled. Haruji's words are sweeter than his sweet potato. If there are two factions in the white potato world, white potato sellers, and white potato talkers, Haruji certainly belongs to the latter faction. Zhao Ziyue couldn't help but felt it was not worth it, so he smiled. Haruji used the tip of the knife to gently cut the piece of. Pick the imperial order sweet potatoes on the plate, then cut them into 6 small pieces with 2 knives horizontally and 1 knife vertically. Then, without being too busy but clearly busy, use a small wooden ladle to hold a spoonful of half-sticky juice, and evenly pour it onto the plate. Sprinkle it on. The procedures are meticulous and the work is lively and energetic. Finally, he respectfully handed it to Zhao Zi with both hands and said, "Isn't it cold after the snow falls?" Zhao Ziyue squatted beside the pot and said while eating. Sitting across from him was a salivating little black and white dog, winking and winking in the hope of eating some sweet potato beards and skins, or, in general, potato residue. Yes, gentlemen. No. Chun-Er replied, "I tell you, if you see snow in October, next year will be a good year. Looking forward to it, the poor boys will have 2 meals of white noodles. But the snow is not thick. Not thick. Gentlemen. Not thick. To put it bluntly, it's only 5 points. Less than an inch, no." Zhao Ziyue glanced at Chun-Er sideways, and then concentrated on the sweet potato plate. He had eaten 3/4 of the piece of sweet potato, and suddenly realized. Bah! Pooh! I haven't rinsed my mouth yet, it's not hygienic. Cough! Bo! Gentlemen. Sweet potato clears the heart and dispels internal heat. It doesn't matter if you don't rinse your mouth for a day after eating. Chun-Er said with a smile, fearing that he would earn a few less coins because of an unhygienic crime. Who believes what you say? It's nonsense. Zhao Zi said and threw the plate on the ground. Haruji and the little black and white dog charged together to grab it. The puppy didn't turn into potato leftovers, but was kicked by Chun-Er. Zhao Ziyue stood up and walked into the courtyard, calling Li Shun constantly. Li Shun agreed in the courtyard. "Give Haruji a dime. It's so hot." Sweet potato. 2. Li Jingchun studied philosophy at Mingjing University. He has a thin face, with his forehead slightly tilted forward. The extraordinary energy in his 2 eyes is brought out by his frailty. There is an air of perseverance. The stature is not high. The back is slightly tilted forward. She was wearing a blue cotton robe and a green woolen mandarin jacket, which further enhanced Shini's attitude. Some of the people in the rooftop apartment admired him, while others hated him out of jealousy. But he himself is always very gentle and polite. Old Zhao. No homework in the morning? Li Jingchun came back from the snow and asked outside the 3rd window. "Come in, Lao Li." "Damn it, I lost a piece of the snow scene when I closed my eyes." Zhao Zi said that he may not necessarily regret, but he said it with a look of regret. "Let's wait." Li Jingchun went in, moved a small chair to the stove, and sat down. "Lao Li, why didn't you come over for the meeting last night?" Zhao Ziyue asked with a smile. "I'll offend people if I say anything, so it's better not to come." Li Jingchun replied, "Besides, I don't agree with it at all if the results of the meeting cannot be fighted." "Really? Okay. Lao Li, you sit down while I review my English." Zhao Ziyue always looked a little afraid of Li Jingchun for some reason. What's even more strange is that he can't think of studying without seeing Li Jingchun. When he sees Li Jingchun, he immediately becomes addicted to reading. He picked up a small book from the table, coughed twice, shrugged, faced the wall and read solemnly, "A boy. A peach." He coughed twice more, and then muttered in a low voice, "One is fraternity, and the other is shit-eating. Put the book down." Li Jingchun couldn't help but laugh. "Let me talk to you." "Are you asking me to put down the book?" Zhao Zi asked with a straight face. Li Jingchun didn't answer. "Yes," Zhao Zi said with a chuckle, "put it down, just put it down." He threw the small book on the table and picked up a cigarette. Naturally no one said, "Kick me away." He remembered it clearly, but he didn't care. Li Jingchun lowered his head and was silent for a long time. He read what he wanted to say in his mind first, and then asked in a low voice, "Old Zhao, you will be 26 years old by the end of the year?" "Not bad," Zhao Ziyue said and touched the beard stubble on his lips with his hand. "Not bad, yes. He is a young and powerful hero. 2 years older than me. It's your big brother." Haha. Zhao Ziyue flicked the cigarette ashes with his index finger in an old-fashioned way, really bringing out some big brother style. It seems like big brother should be eating cigarettes. It seems that whether the old man should smoke opium should be determined in the constitution. What will big brother do in the future? Li Jingchun stood up and walked back and forth with his head lowered. Who knows? Shouldn't you know? Li Jingchun glanced at Zhao Ziyue. This should know. Zhao Ziyue began to feel a little uncomfortable all over his body, and he scratched his head with his short and thick fingers like 5 bananas. He also specially selected one of the 5 fingers, the index finger, and turned it over and over to pick his nostrils. Why not think about it now? I can remember it for a moment. Zhao Zi said that after thinking about it for a while, he really didn't think of any good ideas. Should I think about it for you? Li Jingchun asked calmly and sincerely. I listened to you. Zhao Ziyue accidentally threw half a cigarette into the stove and looked at Li Jingchun with his eyes, not daring to meet his eyes. Old Zhao. You and I have been classmates for almost 2 years. Li Jingchun sat by the stove again. If you don't regard me as a friend not worth keeping, I would like to, old Li. Zhao Zi said, showing sincerity, just tell me. If I don't listen to good words, I'm a dog, Mr. Dog. After saying these 2 British words, fortunately, he drove away 7 or 8 points of his earnest look. Tell me my attitude towards you. Lao Zhao. I am not a person who likes to make many friends, but I have spotted a person. He does not have to be rich or knowledgeable than me. I am willing to sincerely help him. Your money actually belongs to your father, and I don't notice it. I really can't stand your behavior when it comes to your money. But I thought you were a good friend because you have a good heart. Zhao Ziyue's heart can be heard by himself, jumping like a thump 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 thump. To put it bluntly, you have achieved nothing in your studies, but you are not unintelligent. Otherwise, how could you write Introduction to Sparrow, and how could you sing Huang so well? You have a lot of good intentions and some genius. If you continue with your current life, would really feel worried for you. Old Li. You spoke to my heart. Zhao Zi said that there are hundreds of thousands of pores, and each one is like a train letting off steam, shooting cool air out. From the heel to the Tianling cap, it trembles in unison. Only then did he utter such an unprecedented, revolutionary, duplicitous, perhaps not, sentence. Whose fault is it? Li Jingchun looked at Zhao Zi and said. Zhao Zi's face had a hint of green in the purple, like electric silk, a fashionable material for Western clothes, with a wisp of red. A wisp of green, not ugly. I'm not good at myself. Of course you can't absolve yourself of the blame, but the temptation from the outside world is not small. In terms of friends, how many true friends do you have? In terms of your only good friend, you probably know who he is. Is he your friend or enemy? I know. Oh. No matter who he is, now it just depends on whether you have the heart and determination to eliminate evil and do good. Old Li. You watch. I can only repay your kindness with my future actions. Zhao Zi said that when he was anxious, he actually put it in his heart. Or wherever it is, the hidden, true Zhao Ziyue is revealed. This real Zhao Ziyue must not be the Zhao Ziyue with an eagle nose, dog eyes, and pig's mouth, because you close your eyes and listen to this sentence with your heart and ears alone. It's definitely not something that a pig's mouth can spit out. If you can escape from this evil force, the next step is to find a legitimate business. Li Jingchun became calmer. What do you think I should do well? There are 3 ways. Li Jingchun slowly stretched out 3 fingers. After looking at his fingers for a long time, he continued, first, choose a subject and work hard for 4 or 5 years. This is the hardest. Your heart will not be at ease for a while. Second, do you have land at home? There are more than 10 hectares. After looking at his fingers for a long time, he continued, first, choose a subject and work hard for 4 or 5 years. This is the hardest. Your heart will not be at ease for a while. Second, do you have land at home? There are more than 10 hectares. Zhao Zi said, his face and heart seemed to be red at the same time. Ashamed. A few days ago, I had to point out those fields and the son of the agricultural and commercial director to see who was up and down on the mahjong farm. Buy some agricultural books and new farm equipment, and go home half to study and half to experiment. This is sure and easy to do, and you will get something for sure. It is of great benefit to farmers. Third, Li Jingchun paused for a long time before continuing. This is the most dangerous. The most dangerous. Find something to do in society. Doing things without sufficient knowledge is dangerous. If you are educated but cannot find anything to do, you may even starve to death, but your death will be bright. Being uneducated and just asking for a bowl of rice, I'm talking about you and me, regardless of others, is the same as a rat stealing something to eat. It not only commits the crime of stealing, but also spreads some infectious diseases. However, if you can restrain yourself, you can actually gain some experience in doing it. Naturally, all good and bad experiences can be counted as experience. In short, no matter what, we should move forward and move towards the good. Even if a good thing is as small as the tip of a needle, it is a good thing after all. Li Jingchun held his chin in one hand, quietly watching the flames in the furnace jump and jump like a few naughty children sticking out their little red tongues and laughing playfully. Zhao Zi said with his mouth half open and his eyes straight looking at the flames, as if the flames were laughing at him. He reached out and dug into his ears. Take out a piece of gray-yellow earwax. I dug my nose and took out a nose that looked like a small clam. It was strange. There are all these miscellaneous little things on the body. I have lived for more than 20 years and it seems that I have never consciously picked out my earwax or nose. It's just like you haven't realized that your brain can think and your mouth can say good things. Old Zhao, Li Jingchun stood up and said, "Forgive me for being so rude. Maybe you understand what I mean." "Understood. Understood. Are you still fighting against your opposition to the exam?" Li Jingchun wanted to walk out but stopped. "I don't care. I am worthy of causing a disturbance. That's all up to your own prudence. I can't say much now." Li Jingchun opened the door and walked out. "Thank you, Lao Li." Zhao Ziyue followed Li Jingchun out unknowingly. When he reached the door, he felt uncomfortable and whispered, "Old Li. Come back. Do you have anything to say? Come back. Come in." Li Jingchun walked in again. Zhao Ziyue's eyes were wet, tears welling up in his eyes. He shrugged his nose and frowned hard to keep them from falling down. "Lao Li. I also have something to tell you. Your body is too weak, you should pay attention." His tears fell with his words. Just because I was grateful for Li Jingchun's words, I wouldn't cry. If you regret your actions, you won't shed tears. He advised Li Jingchun. He had never done anything like this in his life. His tears were trembling from his heart, from gratitude, regret, hope, awareness, and shame. A few drops of dew on the heart secreted from a mess of emotions. His words are always said to make others laugh, to elicit flattery from others, and to entertain others. His lips, teeth, tongue, and throat can only make pronunciation movements. And not once did he curl up his tongue and ask about his heart. This is the first time that he feels that he can understand each other's hearts through words. This is the first time that he understands that the relationship between friends is not just lip service, but two hearts attracting each other. Like two electric waves of the opposite sex silently feeling each other. He could speak from his heart, the vibration of his soul broke the restraints of all limbs and muscles, and his eyelids could no longer hold back his tears. But when the tears fell, he felt happy. Because the heart that had been buried in him for more than 20 years seemed to have grown rusty, and for the first time he took it out bloody in broad daylight and showed it to others. However, after all, he did not dare to tell Li Jingchun in the hospital. It seems that the greatest shame is to say words from the heart in public. He doesn't have the courage. "Old Zhao. Please urge me to exercise." Li Jingchun lowered his head and walked out again. 3. Ouyang Tianfeng and Wu Duan came back from school. As he entered the apartment door, he shouted, "Old Zhao! Old Zhao!" No answer. Ouyang Tianfeng ran to number 3 to open the door in 3 or 2 steps, but it couldn't be opened. He leaned on the windowsill and looked through the glass. Zhao Zi was sitting by the stove, facing in, holding his head in his hands. Not moving at all. "Old Zhao. Why are you so crazy? Open the door." "Guess what? Open the door." Butuan also ran over and shouted. Zhao Ziyue stood up dejectedly and lazily opened the door. Ouyang Tianfeng and Wu Duan jumped in front and back. Butuan's beating sound was particularly heavy and pleasant because he was wearing foreign leather shoes. "Why are you so crazy?" Ouyang Tianfeng asked, holding Zhao Ziyao's shoulders with both hands. Zhao Zi said that he had no words. At this time, his heart was still in his mouth and his tongue was still in his heart. At the moment, he didn't have the strength or embarrassment to separate his heart and mouth, and say something that would make others, at least Ouyang Tianfeng's pink face, embroidered with smile lines. Ouyang Tianfeng shook Zhao Ziya's shoulders with half annoyance and half smile. Like a golden bee, it must pluck away the sweet honey from Zhao Ziyue's heart. Zhao Ziyue's heart was pricking with thorns, and he couldn't bear to prevent the cute wasp from taking away a little pollen from his little furry legs. That seems to be his responsibility. Although he felt that he was such an ugly little wild chrysanthemum, he had to at least speak, no matter what he said. Don't make trouble. There's something inappropriate about you. His eyes were reflected by Ouyang Tianfeng's pink face, making him want to laugh. But the muscles on the face are still unwilling to help the eyes complete this smile. His heart felt as if the east and west hemispheres could not see the sun at the same time, standing between laughing and not smiling, and feeling sour for a while. I tell you, we will play against Commerce University tomorrow. You must practice your gorilla this afternoon. You old cunning guy, pretending to be sick. Ouyang Tianfeng's curses are also pleasant to hear. He curled his lips and said, "You can't get a doctorate in football by playing football." Zhao Ziyue was so cruel that he stabbed Ouyang Tianfeng's soft eardrum with such harsh words. This determination is no less than the first shot of the revolution of 1911. Take him away and go to dinner. Guess what? There is a secret here. Butuan said. Butuan's nickname is Wu Secret. Except for the mysteries of the universe and the mysteries of science, he disdains speculation. He sees a dark shadow in everything, and he wants to use X-rays to illuminate both sides. When he was riding in a foreign car, if he met a lame driver, he would immediately get out of the car and kick the lame driver's legs to see if he was really lame. He had no intention of bullying the poor man when he kicked the cart puller. After kicking him, if the cart puller was really lame, he would give him a few cents more. He has no pity for the poor. In short, he kicks people and gives them more money just to understand them thoroughly, and he thinks that spending a few extra cents is a kind of secret experiment fee. He picked up the fake mink hat from the table and put it on Zhao Ziyue's hat stand. He took out a wallet from the drawer and stuffed it into Zhao Ziyue's pocket. Not only does he know where other people's wallets are, he also knows how much money is in the wallet. Otherwise, how can he be called Wu Mi Mi? Really? I don't feel very comfortable and don't want to go out. As Zhao Zi said this, he also thought, why don't you eat in the apartment instead of going to a restaurant? Pull him away. Wu Duan pulled Zhao Ziyue's left arm. Ouyang smiled and pulled his right arm. The two dragons held Zhao Ziyue out like a bead without wiping his feet. After leaving the street gate, the foreign rickshaw driver pulled the car over as fast as he could. Mr. Zhao, take my car. Mr. Zhao. Mr. Zhao, his leg is lame. Two little dragons carried the luminous pearl to the car, and Ouyang Tianfeng gave the order, Dong'an Market. Butuan looked around. See if there is any lame person pulling the cart. No. He was a little unhappy. The snow on the road has melted. After being grinded by pedestrians, cars and horses, the snow water and black soil have mixed into a sticky, thick, and smooth black mud paste. However, the drivers used points, grinds, picks. The dance skills, for a technical point of view, were splashed with mud and mud all the way, and the sound and appearance were good when they arrived at the Dong'an Market. Sir, shall we wait? Asked the drivers. Don't wait, tell us to go back like sows? You're confused. Butuan was not satisfied with this question and clearly asked it like this. It is unreasonable to expose the secret that Wu secretly did not have a chartered car in public. Xingguishan or Jinping Mai? Ouyang Tianfeng asked Zhao Zi. The two, Zingguishan and Jinpingmai, are both newly opened Soviet-style restaurants. Casual. Zhao Zi said that he seemed unwilling to say even these two words. Following Ouyang Tianfeng, Wu Duan squeezed in the crowd in fear. In his eyes, everything in the market seemed like a soulless ball of rags and perfume bottles in the glass window. From Paris, colorful baubles made of rubber, made in New York City, what is their purpose? Beauties with smiles on their faces, ladies who are more beautiful and frightening than their clothes, all have eyes brighter than diamonds. Shooting on the glass window, some straightened their necks and entered the shop, determined to satisfy their possessiveness. Some touched their money bags, swallowed their tears secretly, and said to themselves, "This is not the best product. This is life." Zhao Zi said that in these few minutes, whatever he saw in his eyes, a question mark was drawn in his mind. Zingguishan? Jinpingmai? Myself? Zingguishan. Drink some Shaoxing yellow. Butuan said. Then he whispered to Ouyang Tianfeng, the inner shopkeeper of Zingguishan is from Suzhou, hey. So beautiful. Arriving upstairs at Zingguishan, Ouyang Tianfeng asked Zhao Ziyue for a box of 3 Fortress cigarettes. Zhao Ziyue lit the cigarette, his brows gradually spread by 3 or 4 centimeters, and he forgot to put the cigarette in the cigarette roll. The philosophical question mark. Old Zhao. Butuan said. Tell your secret. What to drink? Ouyang Tianfeng glanced at Wu Duan, then handed Zhao Zi a smiling face and said, question mark. Don't drink. Zhao Zi said, looking up at the smoke. The lingering problems of life and his own ambitions in his heart were indeed much thinner. However, it was difficult to change his attitude for a while, and others saw his moody weakness. Ouyang Tianfeng smiled slightly from his ears. Actually, I can't tell which mechanism it came from. Then we discussed with Butuan and ordered wine and dishes. Zhao Zi clanged the wine cup, which the waiter had just placed, and placed it on the table. When the wine and food arrived, he only lazily took a few bites of the food and twisted his neck to read the advertisement for 5-star wine, hanging on the wall. Lao Wu. Come on. Punch. 3 stars. Qiqiao. High promotion. Zhao Zi stared at the wall, hoping in his heart that they would ask, Old Zhao. Come, so that he could answer them, no. No, to show his firm will. Unfortunately, they didn't ask. Ouyang. 3 punches, 2 wins and 1 light is enough. Wu Duan picked up the wine bottle and poured a cup for Ouyang Tianfeng. Then he said to Zhao Zi, look at us. Guess what? Ouyang is the best at drinking. Zhao Zi said he was speechless. Lao Wu. Ouyang Tianfeng said solemnly, don't ask him, he must be uncomfortable. If he says he doesn't want to drink, he just doesn't drink, and he doesn't even look at the wine. This is his benefit. Zhao Ziyue felt much happier. Ouyang Tianfeng's little golden key, not too big or too small, just opened the lock of worry in Zhao Ziyue's heart. People who can talk are not always liked by others. But when necessary, it increases people's sorrow and arouses their anger. If people are angry and depressed to a certain extent, if you can arouse them to the highest point, the anger and depression themselves will be happy, satisfied, and turn sadness into joy. Tears turn into laughter. Just like when a child is in a bad temper, it feels so good to make him cry. The old woman said, just cry and it will be fine. This is true. To a person who is not used to getting sick, you say, you look much better. When he is unfortunate enough to get sick. Because of your suggestion, the efficacy of the lotus stems and lamp cores will increase tenfold. But for people who take medicine when they are sick as a pastime, you'd better say, you still have to take care of yourself. In addition to the red pills, you also need to add some AI Luo brain supplement. So he was satisfied, and your compassion and ability to appreciate the beauty of illness comforted him. Ouyang Tianfeng understands this. Butuan lost again in the punch, so he picked up the wine cup, raised his neck, drank it all with a loud mouth, raised the wine cup to Zhao Zi and said, "Do it." Zhao Ziyue had already turned around, frowning and winking, as if he was very ill. The fragrant smell of wine stung his nostrils bit by bit, making his throat feel slightly itchy. He scratched his neck with his hands and looked like he was suffering from diphtheria. "Old Zhao," Butuan said, "paddle for me, I can't beat this guy Ouyang." Zhao Ziyue still didn't answer, and moved his fingers under the table. Then he put his hand on the table and grasped the fingers of his right hand with his left hand, as if he was about to get ghost pimples. "Old Zhao." Ouyang Tianfeng said sincerely, "Do you have a headache or a bad stomach?" "It hurts. It all hurts," Zhao Ziyue said, and immediately felt something uncomfortable in his stomach. "It's itchy on your body too? It's so painful." Feng Han. Ouyang Tianfeng determined the pulse without thinking. "It's all that damn Chun Air kid," Zhao Zi said, remembering the source of the disease with an idea. "Tell me to eat sweet potatoes to suppress the wind. Would you like to have a drink?" Ouyang Tianfeng said and picked up the cup. The way he held the wine cup showed a very sincere attitude. There is no way to describe it. "Don't drink. Don't drink." Zhao Ziyue's mind sent out tens of thousands of urgent telegrams warning the whole country. Unfortunately, the central government did nothing but send telegrams. So Zhao Zi said that the right hand picked up the wine cup like a hungry eagle catching a rabbit. The glass of wine reached his lips, and he realized in his mind, drinking a little rice wine because of a bad stomach, what are you afraid of? So he drank it down with a tilt of his neck. The wine reached the esophagus. All the limbs and organs of the body shouted, "Long live!" The eyebrows opened, the eyes smiled, and the joints all over the body creaked. The brain office also responded to the public opinion and issued an order, "Let Laozue drink another cup. 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups." My tongue gradually became numb, like a piece of soft candy that almost melted in my mouth. The blood flowed, making the corn on my little toe feel itchy and pleasurable. 4 cups, 5 cups. How's your belly? Ouyang Tianfeng cared about Zhao Ziyue almost as kindly as a sister treats her little brother. "I can't die. It still hurts a little. A little. 1, 2, 3, 3 cups again. I want another pound. You're unhappy this morning, isn't it just because of your stomachache? Old Li, a good man. He taught me a lesson. Tell me to go home and farm. Good guy. Good idea." Butuan said, "Guess what? You go home so that he can marry Ms. Wang." "Ha ha. Li Shouho has some tricks up his sleeve," Ouyang said with a smile. The lamp was lit, somehow it was lit. The mahjong card chirped loudly, and somehow I touched it on my finger. 4 rounds and 1 break. Zhao Ziyue said, smelling more drunk than ambitious, his blood-red eyes fixed on the snow-white, blank slate. For laps completed. For more laps, no more. There will be a game tomorrow. I have to go to bed early. It's 4 o'clock. Go to sleep. Keep up your spirits so that you can win some glory for the school. Sports cannot be ignored, I tell you, little brothers. Oh, oh, oh. The cock crows. The wind and rain are like darkness, and the cock crows endlessly, Zhao said after reciting, fell on the bed and fell asleep. He saw Li Jingchun again in his dream, but he used Hongzhong and whiteboard to beat Li Jingchun and run away. 4. The Stadium of Commerce University is covered with fine yellow sand, and the dark blue goal is covered with a snow-white net. A white and gray line was drawn around the court, and thick hemp ropes were tied to short wooden stakes along the white line. Male and female students gradually stood outside the wooden stakes, talking to each other, and the heat from their mouths slowly condensed into a mist. A white and gray line was drawn around the court, and thick hemp ropes were tied to short wooden stakes along the white line. Male and female students gradually stood outside the wooden stakes, talking to each other, and the heat from their mouths slowly condensed into a mist. Ushers, including Ouyang Tianfeng and Wu Duan. Holding on to the little white flag, the light green silk strips floated on his chest, jumping back and forth, left and right, and there was nothing he had to do. Several kites hang in the sky accompanying the setting sun, representing the beauty of the clear early winter with calm wind and clear clouds. Holding on to the little white flag, the light green silk strips floated on his chest, jumping back and forth, left and right, and there was nothing he had to do. Xianyang couldn't bear to leave this group of men and women, as if this was the first time in his hundreds of thousands of years of experience that he had seen such a lively and lovely group of students in China. The candy seller with braided hair outside the venue. Covering his cold red ears with one hand, he yelled, "The pear cake tastes crooked, the candy is vomiting." A primary school student from the half-day school in the police district, wearing a gray and swollen cotton short jacket, shouted, "Come on, cigarettes, rolled cigarettes." The mist on the heads of the male and female students gradually thickened. Because the burning of hundreds of cigarettes together is no less than that of a small chimney in a factory. The white and gray lines on the ground gradually disappeared section by section. Half of them were crushed away by the soles of students' shoes, and the other half were covered by the skins of melon seeds and peanuts. The players gradually showed up. Those from the commercial university were wearing gray sweatshirts, brown woolen socks, and blue caps. Mingyang University wears red sportswear, black wool socks, and white caps. If you look carefully at what they are wearing and what they are wearing on their heads, you can come to the conclusion without hesitation: some domestic products are not available. Although they sometimes go to the grocery store and destroy foreign products. The players all came to the field with their legs bent, their backs hunched, and their hands rubbing their exposed knees, with goosebumps rising from the cold, expressing some soft but hard sportsman style. Before entering the venue, I looked for familiar people outside the venue to shake hands one by one. Old Zhang put in some effort. No need to win more, half a dozen is enough. Old son. What a beautiful little hat. Kick them hard in the legs, Li Kuei. The players seemed to hear it. He didn't seem to hear him, and just smiled at everyone in a circle, showing his white teeth that he had just brushed. Once on the court, attack the goal first, slide your legs, and move your whole body. The ball flies from a high place, and you lightly tap it with your toes and slam it onto the ground. Then he pretended to slip, with his back facing the ground. He fell to the ground with his feet up. Another player ran over with his toes touching the ground, picked up the ball and threw it on the knee of the one who was lying on the ground. Then he looked around, and sure enough, all the spectators were laughing. The hands and feet guarding the gate worked together. Those who block horizontally and vertically do not let the ball go into the goal. Sometimes the ball has hit the white line net behind the goal, but he jumps high and touches the upper frame of the goal as if he didn't see the ball go in. Zhao Zi said the day has arrived. Ha ha. Zhao Tiniu is here. It's not Tiniu. With a dark red face, stubby hands and feet, his legs deliberately turned sideways, and his steps crossed, he really looked like an invincible athlete in the world. The sports socks were tied with 2 watercress green silk strips, and the black hairy legs were exposed on the green strips. Kick the cow to death, no doubt. He kept chatting and laughing with his friends outside the court. He kept nodding to the students in the field and shouting, "Lao Meng. Sweat a little more today. Come in and run your legs. No. You have roots." He walked into the field while still looking back. Nod and wave. When he got close to the wooden stake, he tripped his foot on the hemp rope and fell into the field like a big ingot. Everyone around burst into laughter like thunder. Look! Tiniu is doing tricks again. He kicked his legs, planning to jump like a carp. But his head felt heavy and his heart was sour. I couldn't stand up. The waiters panicked. Bring the fire wine. Fire wine. Handfuls of fire wine were slapped on the leg of the cow that he had kicked to death. It's done. It's done. He said with a forced smile, my legs are not sick, but my head is dizzy. Old Zhao's legs may not be strong enough today. Guess what? Bu Tuan said to Ouyang Tianfeng. Don't say depressing words. D. The judge, a little Englishman who looks like a douchebag, puffs up his cheeks as high as he can and plays the silver flute with murderous intent. Thousands of heads outside the field suddenly turned to the field as if pulled by a thread. The smoker held a puff of cigarette in his mouth and temporarily forgot to spray it out. The person who ate melon seeds put the melon seeds to his lips and did not bite them. On the field, the players stand still. Zhao Ziyue was the pioneer of the left wing. Beep beep. Zhao Zi said, like a strange gust of wind, he brought the ball across the center line. Quick! Iron Bull. Ayong, shoot! Forgetting his own life, he ran forward turning left and right. I don't know if the ball is kicking someone. People are still kicking the ball, and the lion is rolling like a ball with its teeth and claws. The enemy center back put his left foot forward as a try. Zhao Ziyue turned the ball outward, just in time, and landed on the enemy center back's right foot, sending the ball back in one move. Ha ha. Ha ha. There was a bang. Students from the commercial university threw their hats, handkerchiefs, and even cigarette packs in the air, jumping on their feet and shouting. Oops. Old Zhao. Zhao Ziyue's classmates sighed together. Within this minute, the students at the commercial university all blinked for more than a minute. All the famous university students retracted their noses by 5 to 6 centimeters. Zhao Ziyue secretly looked around, and saw that thousands of mouths all said in unison, Old Zhao is terrible. He pretended to be very calm, put his hand on his head, and scratched it through his little hat. It seems that the failure of playing football can be covered up by scratching the head. I don't know what the reason is. While grabbing his head, the ball happened to fly from behind and hit his hand, that is, his head. There was a buzzing sound in his head. Falling forward, his eyes lit up as he discovered, whiteboard, Dongfeng, get rich. In his ears, he heard in a trance, time, out, followed by the noise of people around him, carry him down. Damn it. The judge is unfair. Falling forward, his eyes lit up as he discovered, whiteboard, Dongfeng, get rich. Ouyang Tianfeng ran in and helped Zhao Ziyue up. He helped Ouyang slowly walk behind the goal, put on his leather robe and sat on the ground. His classmates kept shouting, hit, followed by a few from the northeast corner running into the field. He ran to the judges and then ran back again for some reason. Later I found out that those few people were all short-sighted and did not see clearly that the judges were foreigners outside the court. Humph. What if the evaluator is not a foreigner? Haha. Haha, the students from the business university shouted again. Zhao Ziyue saw it really clearly. There was only a layer of white net between the ball and himself. The poet Zhou Shaolian shrank his neck, slowly turned around, and handed Zhao Zi a small note. This Red Army has lost. Can't defeat that gray clown duck. But, if you lose, you lose. What's the big deal, aha. Fourth. 1. Papers in red, yellow, blue and green colors, calligraphy in black, white, gold and purple, calligraphy in various styles of real grass, official seal and seal script, long and short essays in classical Chinese and vernacular. There are all-encompassing curse words, including sarcasm, hot curses, and curses, a manifesto to attack and defend the principal, which is posted from the front door to the back door of Mingjing University, from the foot of the wall to the top of the building. There is also a declaration posted on a telephone pole. The door was broken, the plaque was removed, and the glass was broken. The window flew off. The principal's office was reduced to ashes, and the instrument room was smashed to pieces. The official documents flew all over the street, and not a single page was intact. The books turned into paper dust, leaving only half of the historical records that was destined to die. There were clumps of mud on the ceiling. There were pieces of broken bricks on the floor. Everything was broken except for a spittoon, which still stood in the southeast corner of the auditorium. There is a torn hemp rope outside the principal's room. The principal tied it up and beat it. There are 5 or 6 satin shoes at the gate. The teachers escaped with their socks bare. On the door frame of the office room, a foreign nail more than 3 inches long was nailed to an ear that had already turned blood. It was cut off the head of a mature and serious, criminal, civil servant who had served for more than 20 years. The ground in the campus greenhouse turned into black and purple blood, which was poured from the nose of the old gardener who earned 10 yuan a month. The goldfish in the fish tank in the greenhouse floated on the water with a bright white belly, and a whole box of chalk bubbled on the bottom of the tank. The lingering souls of those little goldfish are suffering. The eyes of the little frogs raised in the laboratory were stuck on the bricks, and they lost their lives as ghosts on the test bench. The sun was so sad that it hid in the dark clouds and didn't come out all day. The little mouse proudly chewed the legs of the dead little frog in the dark. 3-inch black letters in the newspaper reported the school trend. Telegrams were flying all over the country. The door of the Ministry of Education is closed and the second door is not open. It looks like a large shrine that has been short of incense for a long time. Educational groups convened meetings one after another to discuss relief measures, and unanimously decided, let's wait and see the limelight before talking. The heroic soldiers had bayonets on their guns that were accustomed to drinking human blood. They surrounded this bleak and broken university hall like wild beasts, as if they were the only ones who dared to stand there. The drops of blood on the ground formed like small round eyes, quietly looking at the soles of the soldier's shoes. 2. Old Zhao. How are you? Li Jingchun went to Dongfang Hospital to see Zhao Zi and said. Are you here, Lao Li? Zhao Zi said that his head was wrapped in white cloth, and his complexion was as pale as the wind and sunset. There was gauze wrapped around his left arm, and a pink adhesive plaster cross was stuck on his right cheek. The left and right sides contrasted. There is also a heroic spirit. The injury is not serious, it will be fine in 7 or 8 days. Where is Ouyang? Sleeping in the apartment. The slower Li Jingchun spoke, the more emotion he expressed. The smile lines on his face showed how much injustice he felt in his heart. He's not injured? Zhao Zi asked. He was only afraid that Ouyang Tianfeng was injured, but he couldn't help but think that Ouyang must be injured. After hearing Li Jingchun's words, he was a little surprised from the comfort. How can someone who advocates beating people get hurt? Didn't he go to school? Zhao Ziyue seemed to not believe Li Jingchun's words. At this time, he really hoped that Ouyang would be injured. He seemed unwilling to let his friend lose any personality for physical safety. I didn't go because I don't advocate fighting. He didn't go either. Because he advocates fighting. Vomit. Zhao Zi closed his eyes and frowned in one place, assuming that he was not hurting himself, or was feeling sad for someone else. Li Jingchun looked at him blankly and didn't speak for a long time. There were groans and lamentations in other wards. Taking advantage of the silence in the house, it gradually invaded. Li Jingchun looked at Zhao Zi and said, listening to the patient's moans, he felt that the whole world was trapped in a web of sorrow. His spirit of daily struggle was obscured by this sad black shadow, just like the old tree in the courtyard. Zhao Ziyue seemed to have fallen asleep. He tiptoed and held his breath to walk out. Old Li, don't go. Zhao Ziyue suddenly opened his eyes. He smiled bitterly at Li Jingchun, indicating that he was not in any pain. What's going on with you? Nothing, really. Zhao Ziyue slowly raised his right hand and touched the gauze on his head, and then said after a pause, I ask you. What's up? I ask you. How is Ms. Wang? Zhao Ziyue glanced at Li Jingchun secretly, then opened and closed his left and right eyes alternately, and looked at the wings of his nose. There were some beads of sweat on it. Her? I heard that she also came to the hospital, and I was about to see her. Yeah? Zhao Zi said after finishing speaking. Close your eyes again. Seriously, aren't you feeling sad? No. Li Jingchun had several words, questions in his mind, but they were all stopped by Zhao Ziyue's sad look. If you don't say it, you feel sorry for him. If you say it, you're afraid of adding to his pain and annoyance. Walk. Afraid of being lonely, Zhao Zi said, if I don't leave, the words I want to say but am embarrassed to say roll up and down like a swarm of bees about to leave the nest. While he was in trouble, the door opened and Mo Danian walked in with a glowing face. The red light on his face warmed Zhao Ziyue's heart a little. See you tomorrow, Lao Zhao. Li Jingchun finally got a chance to escape, and said to Mo Danian, you can talk to Lao Zhao. After that, he walked out gently, walked to the door, looked back at Zhao Zi and said. The smile on Zhao Ziyue's face was no longer as forced as it was a few minutes ago. Old Zhao. Mo Danian asked. I heard that the warlord had your Tianling cover lifted off by you. Who said that? You still want to live after lifting the Tianling cap? Zhao Ziyue felt much happier, and his tone of voice became sharper and more interesting. Is that what everyone says? Mo Danian's face turned redder, just like the red cheeks of silly old man. Where is Ouyang? Have no idea. Probably running around and exercising, not necessarily. When I came here I met Lao Wu and he said he would come and see you later. You ask him. Isn't his information better than ours? Where is Ms. Wang? Zhao Zi said it naturally. I don't know either. Never mind them. Old Mo, are you okay? It's okay, I just came to see you. Mo Danian said something cheerful and smiled to express his congratulations. Okay. Let's talk. Zhao Ziyue said, opening his eyes like two sunflowers. As the red light on Mo Danian's face turned around, the pain on his body seemed to have disappeared with Li Jingchun. Old Mo. Do you know the secrets of Ms. Wang and Professor Zhang? What secret? Mo Danian asked. I'm asking you. I don't know. You know nothing, Lao Mo. Except eating your braised fish head. Zhao Zi said with a smile. His face looked like floating clouds after a thunderstorm, with a little red in the gray reflected by the sun. Old Zhao. See you tomorrow. I'll buy you oranges tomorrow. Mo Danian was ashamed and wanted to go out. Old Mo. I'm telling you a joke and you're in a hurry? Don't go. I still have something to do, come tomorrow. Mo Danian said and walked out of the house. As soon as he walked out of the house, he immediately pouted. From the hospital to the rooftop apartment, I kept mumbling, I don't know anything. I don't know. Everyone calls us a silly old man. A silly old man. 3. The next day, Mo Danian sent a dozen oranges to Zhao Ziyue and handed them over to the hospital ward. He didn't go in to see Zhao Zi. He is definitely not angry with Zhao Ziyue, nor is he being petty and careless. What he was not happy about was that in this new society, if he did not have the ability to see all directions, hear all directions, and show his shrewdness and ability everywhere. No matter how talented you are and how knowledgeable you are, you'd better be a good old friend, or call you idiot, without any politeness. If a bandit has the courage to demolish railways and kidnap foreigners, then he is qualified to be a brigade commander, and what else needs to be said? In terms of his family background, it means that he will never do anything for the rest of his life. He can also live a peaceful world by himself without any worries about food and clothing. But he hated badges like idiot. He wants to be a new kind of hero with red beard and indigo face in the new society. Even if being a hero is just for fun and entertainment without any real benefit, after all, a hero is better than a fool. He knew clearly that Zhao Ziyue was joking with him, and he also knew that, not knowing the secret and loving to eat braised fish head were not treason. However, everyone wants to treat him with Zhao Zi's smiling face, which may be the reason for his bad reputations such as wimp and dead fish head. This kind of emblem is not something that a cheerful young man can endure. New youth have 3 fears: fear of not being tough, fear of being illogical, fear of being brainless. Mo Danian was born with a kind-hearted nature, and he was incapable of being arrogant and sarcastic. As for logic, he doesn't understand it like other young people, but like other young people, he must avoid this illogic. Crime. How to avoid it? Naturally, the first step is to have a brain. Therefore, among the three fears, Mo Danian must first escape from the shadow of mindless. Knowing the secrets is naturally an expression of having a clear mind and knowing more. So, knowing the secrets. The only element that can be counted as a new character. Knowing the secret is the secret treasure of practicing not being an idiot. Mo Danian thought about it and walked away. The more he thought about it, the sadder he became. Sometimes he stopped and stared blankly at the ancient buildings. He wished he could tear down the city of Beijing immediately and build a new city that was newer than New York. A bronze statue of himself stands on the top of the 2,550-story building, with red and green electric lights flashing on and off. A great year to transform Beijing. Old Mo. Go there? Mo Danian restrained his thoughts of traveling more than 80,000 miles, and looked back. Old Wu. I have nothing to do to hang out. Butuan wore a new gray dress, a blue double-breasted cloak, a snow-white single stiff collar. Wearing a tie made of green gold flowers woven in India. On his head is a gray wide-brimmed felt hat, and on his feet are spotless yellow, rubber-soled, leather shoes. Her chest is bulging, her waist is straight, and the folds of her cloak and trousers are standing straight to the bone. A wasp waist that is neither thick nor thin. Being hugged roundly by the big cloak, it was hard to tell whether the clothes were made to fit, or whether the body was born with the ability to hold up the clothes. He smiled over his shoulder at Mo Danian, and then took out a bronze silk handkerchief from the breast pocket of his suit. First, shake it with the wind, then press it on your nose, press it lightly with your fingers, and make two sounds based on the humming power of your nostrils. This rich and powerful sound, if you close your eyes and listen to it, is exactly the same as the nasal sound of foreigners with high noses. The great New Year elephant watched the magic. Looking at Wu Duan as if he felt a little ashamed from envy in his heart. Butuan was, in Mo Danian's mind, a new young man who had become European and mature. He himself only had one less braid than the stupid and inept villagers in China. Old Mo, let's have some fun. Take advantage of the opportunity of the school strike. Go there? Mo Danian said and took 2 steps back. He lowered his head to see the golden light shining on Butuan's leather shoes, and then looked at the pair of green satin thick-soled cotton shoes on his own feet. Go to the Western cafeteria first. Going to eat? Butuan said. I don't have any Western clothes, so I feel stiff sitting in the Western cafeteria. These 2 sentences are indeed Mo Danian's true experience. Because the table setting in Western restaurants is, for guests who wear Western clothes and speak foreign languages, they will serve them attentively without giving a small bill. For those who wear Chinese clothes, they will serve them attentively. The caregiver who speaks Chinese doesn't even bother to socialize even if he pays a small amount. What's even more special, they speak Chinese to those wearing Western clothes, and foreign languages to those wearing Chinese clothes. So people who can't read the menu with foreign characters are trying to avoid being ridiculed. It's better to go to the Shandong folks, Dewanju, to eat braised noodles than to make you angry at all. However. So, let's go to Mining Western Restaurant. Guess what? There are all Chinese people eating there, the people setting the table are also in Chinese, and you can do boxing while drinking, okay? Let's go. Butuan put his left hand in the pocket of his cloak, and his right hand, wearing a light yellow lambskin glove, inserted it under Mo Danian's right elbow. The 2 of them walked side by side, and Mo Danian was showing off Butuan's Western clothes, but he refused because of the inconvenience. Although he is really afraid of eating foreign food. From a distance, I saw two big banners of mining restaurant. A white flag on the left showed a blood-soaked piece of beef 2 feet square, with 3 large characters, fried steak, written across it. A red flag on the right depicts several French drunkards stumbling around, holding 5-star beer bottles in their hands and pouring them into their mouths. When Butuan saw these two masks, he smiled happily and began to swallow saliva. It was precisely because he was looking at the masks that he chewed them to satisfy his greed. Mo Danian's spirit also cheered up a little, and he felt that behind these two big flags, there was some Western culture. The two of them entered the mining restaurant, and as expected, the voice of 3 stars, 5 liters, was clear and had a foreign flavor, probably because the guests were drinking foreign wine. The old shopkeeper standing in front of the counter took off his hat, raised his hands and said, "Here it comes, sir, here it comes, sir." The man setting the table wore a black oil skirt smeared with butter. The white era, it's been a long time and it's hard to check. Come and wipe the table. Put out knives and forks and a Western-style soy sauce bottle. To put it simply, everything in this restaurant is Western style, and everything is Chinese style, but it is difficult to analyze how to reconcile it. If someone wants to make a book about Eastern and Western culture and eating, this restaurant can certainly provide countless good ingredients. "What do you want to eat, sir?" the man setting the table asked in the name of Shandong. While Butuan was looking at the menu, he put the rag on his shoulder, took out his snuff bottle, and took 2 crisp sniffs. The two of them ordered fried yam eggs with tomatoes, roasted mandarin fish, a small bottle of brandy, cold beef tongue, and Yangjiao Sanxian, coffee. Butuan played the knife and fork beautifully and authentically, really trying to overwhelm the foreign students and stop the blue-eyed ghost. Mo Danian held his breath and swallowed a mouthful of tomatoes, and then drank half a glass of cold water. Lao Wu, Mo Danian didn't have the courage to take a second bite of tomatoes. He sipped a little brandy and asked with a smile, "Tell me, how can you know the secret?" "Purpose? Which one?" After Butuan finished speaking, he called the waiter over and ordered a dry croquette with jam. "How many more kinds are there? Why is there no category when analyzed by scientific methods? Really? Tell me 2 important things." "I can't remember more." "Okay. Guess what?" "Okay. Let me tell you 2 kinds, using secrets and reporting secrets. This is the purpose." "Guess, okay. Let's talk about the purpose first, then the method." Butuan felt that he was very magnanimous and willing to pass on his experience to Mo Danian. Mo Danian listened attentively like a stupid old man. Butuan took a sip of wine, chewed the cow's tongue, and lit another cigarette. The wine, beef tongue, and smoke blended together in the mouth to create a taste that evoked revolutionary thoughts. As the wine goes down the esophagus, the cow's tongue moves up and down between the radula. Smoke slowly came out from the nose. Anyone who did this could not help but thank God for the wonderful creation of man. He swallowed the cow's tongue and then formally said to Mo Danian, "Providing secrets is to please friends and win the trust of society. This is the only element of activity in society, the first step in creating a hero. For example, guess what? Zhang Tianxi, do you know Zhang Tianxi? Director of the Ministry of Finance, Director. If you want to ask about his origin, you don't need to go into details. You can guess it from his name. His original name was Zhang Si, but after he became an official, he was changed to Zhang Tianxi, Zhang Si, Director Zhang. In the first 3 years, he was still Zhang Si, because he reported a secret to Sui Yuan. Guess what? At that time, he had a clerk from Suiyuan Metropolitan Office in Beijing, Clerk Zhang. 3 months ago, he reported another secret to the chief financial officer. I'm shaking, director. From Zhang Si to Zhang Tianxi, section member and director, who can say for sure in the future, maybe Zhang Deshui, Chief Zhang, President Zhang, Zhang Nyodo. Because he lives in Nyodo Town, Sanha County. From Zhang Si to President Zhang, they are tied by a thread. Know the secret. Butuan took a breath and ate another piece of cow's tongue, thinking to himself, if Zhang Si is named after the place, has the hope of having a cow's head, how can he know that he doesn't? The possibility of people being called bulltongues after names of things. He smiled and continued, as for using secrets, guess what? That would be more useful, deeper, and more trembling. By using a secret, in a small way, you can destroy a person or a school. An agency, speaking more broadly, it can overthrow a cabinet and force out a president. Whoever has this ability is qualified to erect a bronze statue, and it is not comparable to the temporary glory of Zhang Si and his like. For being small, he will destroy a person, and for being big, he will drive away a president. No matter how big or small the success is, such actions and the ability to use secrets cannot be done by a natural talent, a true hero, or, you guessed it dash, I have been talking for a long time. These are the two types, right? Mo Danian asked, tell me, which one should I use? Which one are you using now and how do you use it? Ashamed. I use supply secrets. This is much easier to handle than using secrets. Guess what? Ouyang Tianfeng is close to using the secret, but how can we dare to compare with his intelligence? Well, look. I should practice reporting secrets first, shouldn't I? Tell me, how did you get the secret? Mo Danian asked sincerely. Actually, guess what? There is no certain way, you just have to pay attention to yourself. You see, what invented the steam engine when he saw a kettle boiling? He has learned the secret of boiling a kettle and pays attention to everything, everywhere and all the time. Drink. So many secrets. For example, if you see a man and woman walking together while drinking tea in the park, follow them. There must be a secret. If you discover their dark things, yes. Write it down in your little notebook, and once you use it, the result will definitely live up to your hard work following them. Let me tell you, do you know how Sun Quan, the student union president, failed, and how did Wu Shenmin, the new president, succeed? It was because Wu Shenmin caught Sun Quan raping in the park. Besides, even if you don't care about anything, wouldn't it be fun to learn some secrets and talk about them for fun? Guess. Then I have to work hard to practice my ears and eyes first, right? Must. The hand, eye, and body techniques are the same as practicing martial arts. Gotta work hard. Good. Lao Wu. Thank you. I'll wait for the meal. Tell me, what else do you eat? 4. After a few days in the hospital, Zhao Ziyue discovered many miracles in himself, his right hand pressed on the pulse gate of his left wrist. You can feel your heart beating rhythmically from your fingers without resting for a second. My mind is even stranger. Sometimes after a dark wave passes, an ink painting by Shan Gaoyue will appear. This state of mind made him suspect that the foreign potion given to him by the hospital had some illegitimate effect. At least the effect of that potion was different from that of soju, and anything that had a different effect from soju should be suspected at all. The hospital meals are pretty good. Equipment. thoughtful. However, he is lonely, bored and troubled. My heart felt empty, as if something important was missing, like a 50-year-old widow who had lost her son, who was like a pearl. Life is just an overflowing tide. There is no solution, if the brain is not stimulated by soju. He began to understand the relationship between life and soju. Not only life, but also the development of world culture is just a byproduct of the wine bottle. The beating of the heart, the thoughts in the brain. It's all because of Xiaojio's absence that they dare to act like this and disturb the peace like this. He hated this random thinking. He ordered his brain not to think anymore. Failure. It turns out that a brain that is not soaked in soju is a natural thing to think about. He stamped his feet anxiously. He had no choice but to realize out of boredom, why do hospitals put dead people's brains in alcohol bottles? Because there is no need to soak it in wine. You won't find peace after death, you still have to think about it. He would rather die immediately and put his brain in an alcohol bottle than suffer like this. He let out a long sigh, intending to touch the pillar and die, but he rubbed his head and couldn't bear it. Patience. Patience. Let's talk after we get out of the hospital. Endure. Hope. Li Jingxuan's words are good. I should find something to do. He suddenly remembered. As for how he remembered it, and how he only thought about work and forgot about studying and farming that Li Jingchun told him, not only others don't know. Zhao Zi said that he himself was puzzled, as if a meteor was flying across the sky, and he didn't know where it fell from or where it landed. Fortunately, the fact that it flashed in the sky was an indelible fact. What are you looking for? To be a teacher? To start a business? To be an official? Yes. To be an official. He chuckled, and a few drops of saliva splattered from his mouth, just like the spit of a flower flicking down dewdrops. Don't mention it, it's interesting to be able to think. I actually want to be an official. Haha. His smile reminded him of. When he was 7 years old, he bought a little yellow bird with his snack money outside the door. When I was 7 years old, I automatically bought a little yellow bird. When I was almost 26 years old, I automatically remembered that I should become an official. Zhao Master said, if he is not a saint, is he a dog? Why doesn't Ouyang Tianfeng come? The little yellow bird in his mind flew into the deepest place in his memory again. Ouyang Tianfeng's warm pink face and his own smiling face were like two flowers separated by a layer of glass, covering each other. He is running around intensely, for sure. Don't be exhausted. He looked out the window. The old tree outside the window stood there quietly with kind eyes. It's not windy. Thank God. His face couldn't stand the harsh wind. Ha ha. He smiled and replayed the scene of beating the principal that day like a movie. The principal was tied to a pillar like a fat sheep in front of a butcher's door. You punched me, and I kicked you. 3 generations of our ancestors. Yes. Nia Guoding even spat on the principal's face. The old servant's ear was bloody and cut off, and it was nailed to the door frame. He felt uncomfortable for a while, and his mind was like thinking about the deeds of his life at the moment when a thief in a major crime was about to be executed. I can't tell whether it's sour or sweet, whether I'm crying or laughing. The old principal is so pitiful. Anyway, I didn't beat him, I just tied him with a rope. Who knows, he will be beaten after tying him up. He hates me or not. I was tying him up behind his back, but of course he didn't see me. Even if he saw me, What would he dare to do to me, Zhao Zi? He dares to fire me? Dare to? With our power in the academic world and the strength of our 2 arms, he dares to do it, unless he wants to expose his incomplete wounds. Thinking of this, the discomfort in his heart calmed down again. He felt that his power was there, and he said that there were only a few, but there were more than enough. What could a little principal, the son of a cloth hawker, do? Even if I hit him by mistake, it was a mistake. Who told him not to become a warlord but to become a principal? If the warlord did something wrong, it was right. I wouldn't provoke them to use guns anyway. If the principal did something right, it was also wrong, and he should be beaten. Anyway, he will be fine after beating him. The more he thought about it, the happier and more rational he became. He felt that it was logical for him to beat the principal and not dare to provoke the warlord. This logical theory reminded him of his own power and responsibility. Old Zhao is in the hospital. Who will be the chairman of the class meeting now? Is there another person besides me who can be the chairman? Just for fun, I can be the chairman at every turn. Even if he knows how to do it, he still has to let us veterans take a step forward. Don't brag about your power, reputation, and talents. We don't want to cause any commotion at all, otherwise we will be the chairman. When he thought about it, he began to feel that his body needed to take some rest. Not for myself, but for the school, the society, the country, or the world. His body was steaming with heat, and his body couldn't help but fly upwards with the heat, all the way to the highest peak of the Himalayas. Standing there, only he could see the world clearly, and only he had the ability to clean up this ruined world. The scars on my body, fortunately they were beaten by the warlord, feel a little painful. Ask the nurse to order some brandy. He was just wandering from a little yellow bird to the Himalayas to exercise his brain, when Mo Danian suddenly walked in with a smile on his face. Zhao Ziyue hurriedly put the miraculous thoughts he had just discovered into his mind that was like a glass ball. Said to Mo Danian, "Old Mo, you brought me oranges yesterday, why don't you come in and see your old dog brother? There's no secret to report, why are you coming in here?" Mo Danian said in a silly but subtle manner. "So of course there is a secret today? That goes without saying. Look." Lao Mo learned that the nose is the nose and the mouth is the mouth. Come. Hear your secrets. You are dismissed, Lao Zhao. I'm sure I'm the first one to tell you, right? Mo Danian said proudly. Are you telling a joke, or is it true? Zhao Ziyue's smile was a little unnatural. Really? There are 17 in total, and you are the first one. Don't tell lies. Your fellow countryman Zhou Shaoyan is also included. Zhao Ziyue's face changed color and he was speechless for a long time. Really? Mo Danian said seriously. I hope Zhao Ziyue will praise him for getting the news so quickly. Old Mo, you are a fool. Zhao Zi said that he was smiling very ugly, with only the form of a smile but no taste. Don't you understand that you shouldn't report bad news to a patient? Besides, his smile had completely gone, and his voice was a little louder, with that unbeatable principal, who dares to fire Zhao Zi, Zhao Tinyu, what a joke. Mo Danian's bundle of joy was like an egg hitting a rock, with a clap of forks, it was over. He looked at Zhao Ziri blankly, the heat on his face increasing every second, and the whites of his eyes turned red. Suddenly, without saying a word, he turned around and walked out. Old Mo, don't go. Zhao Ziyue followed Mo Danian and glanced outside. Through the crack of the door opened by Mo Danian, he saw a person walking out in the distance. With a bent waist and thin steps, he seemed to be Li Jingchun. What did he do again? Ah. Mo Danian looked back at Zhao Zi and said. Nothing, Lao Mo. Goodbye, Lao Zhao. 5th. 1. The master said, Brother. What an honor. You tied up the principal, and I wrote more than 50 new poems scolding the principal. We have all been expelled. Even though we are defeated, it is still glorious. How many of my fellow villagers can do such a red thing? I'm afraid it's just you and me. I'm ashamed that I can't go to the hospital to see you, folks. Because I am going to Tianjin to enter Shini University tonight. Studying philosophy without understanding the Book of Changes is as incomplete as beating the principal without tying him up. This is the reason why I entered Shini University. I hope your scar will heal soon and you can come to Tianjin to find me. Don't be discouraged, Mingjing University doesn't want us, go to other universities. Other universities won't accept us either, they will push us down. Ha ha. Brave folks, see you all in Tianjin. Your poetry friend. Zhou Shaoyan. After reading this letter, Zhao Ziyue felt much happier. After all, it is the poet's tolerance. Originally, it doesn't matter whether he studies or not, the master is not interested. Yes. Go to Lao Zhou. Tianjin go play. Offend Lao Mo too. How could you say this? If Shaoyan's letter had arrived a little earlier, it wouldn't have caused Lao Mo to leave with a pout on his lips. Damn it, why am I so narrow-minded? 2. The scars on Zhao Ziyue's body slowly healed. In addition to being depressed sometimes and feeling some pain in reality the scar was itching from the new tender flesh, which was a bit more annoying than the pain. The doctor allowed him to do some activities in the hospital. What he likes is like a little snail that welcomes good rain after a long drought, wandering around the yard with its little horns extended. Besides liking it, he also had a little sweet hope hidden in his heart. This hope made his eyes fixed on the women's ward. He is more sincere and attentive than Zhang Tianshi looking at the nine-tailed fairy fox in the demon mirror. The sound of the door over there, the laughter over there, and the cough over there all seemed to mean a lot to him. On the corridor, caretakers with their heads covered with white gauze and dressed in white clothes walked from east to west. Little white butterflies flew around, they are all nannies, useless. Not to mention, there are beautiful nannies too. But dash. The day passed and I saw only a few caregivers. The next day, the north wind roared like a mad cow even before the sun came up. The caregiver warned him not to go into the hospital. He was extremely angry. Marriage is a destiny after all. What if she is discharged from the hospital tomorrow and I am not allowed to go to the yard today? Look, this is not a missed opportunity. Wind. Suppose there is a wind god here. Fengshen is not a good thing at all. If the wind is the agitation of the atmosphere, why is it agitating only today? He cursed for a while, and the wind blew his bones even harder. He had no choice but to lie on the bed and pick up the novel sent by his friends to read. The more I looked at it, the angrier I became. Groups of black characters were jumping around in front of my eyes. One group passed by, and another group followed. They were all the same black, not even a fair and good-looking one. He threw the novel to the ground hard and stepped on it twice. The anger in my heart has been relieved to 1,000,000th. Then he walked around the house with his hands behind his back, puffing out his chest, pouting his lips. Sometimes I stand at the window and look outside. The old tree in the yard shakes its bald head and keeps moving. Sister, I'll dig you out by the roots. Make you angry with me. He had no choice but to lie in bed and think about philosophical issues. His philosophy and random thoughts were one and the same. If wine can nourish the brain and nourish the body, women can satisfy their sexual desire. Thing. Wine and women are the two main elements to maintain life. Right. Marry a wife and drink, drink and marry a wife. When you have time, you will be more prominent, make some waves, and earn some fame. Right. Inside there is wine and women, outside there is fashion and reputation, a philosophy of life. Having thought nothing more about philosophical issues, he thought about reality again. Yang Tianfeng can help me, but do I need a matchmaker who is so far away to deliver letters to Jane? Lao Li is a good person, but he and her? Humph. I have an idea. He jumped up from the bed and pressed the bell 3 times with his mallet-like index finger. This ringing of the electric bell made him realize the glory of material enjoyment, although his philosophical thoughts were sometimes opposed to material civilization. Mr. Zhao. The nurse was detained by the electric bell like a little devil, waiting for Zhao Zi's divine words and decrees. Are you busy? Zhao Ziyue asked with a smile. What's the matter? I want to know something, can you ask me about it? What's the matter, Mr. Zhao? The nurse had an evergreen smile on her face, and she asked kindly and sincerely. If you can do a good job for me, I will give you a small account of 2 yuan, wine money, reward. Zhao Ziyue couldn't think of the right term for the moment. There is no such rule in the hospital, sir. Regardless of whether there is or not, it's not good for you to lose 2 yuan. What is it, sir? He is, you, please inquire about Ms. Wang Lingshi in the women's ward. What number does she live in, what disease she has, and her condition. Is that okay? It's not difficult. I'll find out just by looking at the medical records. The nurse walked out with a smile. Zhao Zi said, confused. Why is the nurse so open-minded? Is it an honest thing for a man to ask a woman about her illness? Or maybe the caretakers are into the matchmaking business. Strangeness. The relationship between a man and a woman is always secret. When a man and a woman are in the same place, except for me and her, isn't it always a stinking and unheard thing? The hospital is naturally built with Western methods. But can foreign men and women be casual? He regretted it, and his Confucianism as a foundation, Western French love as a border, little heart jumped up and down. Silly old man. Why did I let the nurse know my secret? Stupid. But she didn't look surprised at all, or did she see this kind of thing in another way? Maybe she did it for those $2. Mr. Zhao. After a short while, the caregiver came back. Ms. Wang lives in room number 7. She suffered from a blood disease common to women. It's almost healed now. As soon as she said that, she walked out without paying attention to Zhao Ziyao's expression and actions. Come back. Here you go, here are your $2. Nothing, sir. She smiled and waved her hand. There is no such rule in the hospital. Zhao Ziyue sat on the bed and thought for a long time, but couldn't think of any reason. Don't make petty accounts, and don't treat men and women as novelties. Needless to say, the godfather of this caregiver is a foreigner. He couldn't think of anything. Understand the psychology of this caregiver. So I had no choice but to think about it. He believes that there are two sides to everything in the world, those who can think clearly and those who cannot. One of the things that makes this difficult to understand is that you don't have to think about it at all. If someone insists on trying to figure it out, he must be a fool. Zhao said that he would never be a fool. So he threw away his ideals and looked at the facts. I thought she was injured, but why is it a blood disease? If Li Jingchun didn't tell me, there must be nothing good going on between him and her. Okay, you, Li Jingchun, wait for Mr. Zhao. It would be weird if you don't make your heads fall off at the same time. 6th. 1. Zhao Ziyue recovered from his wounds and left the hospital. He turned back step by step to look at the women's ward. It was pitiful. It was so far away, but he couldn't see Ms. Wang's face. It would be weird if you don't make your heads fall off at the same time. 6th. 1. Zhao Ziyue recovered from his wounds and left the hospital. He walked to the red building of the hospital where he could no longer see clearly. He sighed and began to shift his attention from Ms. Wang to Ouyang Tianfeng. Then, tear the sheet printed in my mind to pieces, and rush back to the apartment to see him. When he entered the apartment, Li Shun greeted him with a smile and asked him if he was feeling better. The service in the hospital was not attentive. Zhao Ziyue felt a little grateful for Li Shun's sincerity, but due to his status, it was not convenient for him to talk to his servants. Sohum Hair's hypocrisy agreed. Li Shun opened the door of number 3 house, wiped the dust, and went to get boiling water to make tea. Zhao Ziyue entered the house and looked around, and found that the room was very cold and bleak. It seems that the temple of the city god was so deserted after the city god went on tour. He sighed unconsciously. Where is Mr. Ouyang? Zhao Zi asked. I went out with Mr. Wu. Li Shun replied, I'll probably be back soon. Wow. Zhao Ziyue scratched his head and waited in the room. Suddenly there was a cough in the courtyard like Butuan. After opening the door, Ouyang Tianfeng and Wu Duan were walking towards the south room, shoulder to shoulder. I said dash, Zhao Ziyue jumped as high as he liked and shouted, I said dash, dash. Ha! Lao Zhao. You're back. You didn't die from tetanus. Ouyang Tianfeng rushed towards Zhao Ziyue like petals blown by the wind, and the two held hands affectionately. Zhao Ziyue didn't know whether it was better to cry or laugh. He just felt that Ouyang Tianfeng's witty words were better than Li Shun's vulgar and sincere greetings. It sounds more than 100,000 times better. He shook hands with Butuan again, and Butuan stretched out his hand from his trousers pocket, gently touched Zhao Ziyue's fingers, and then drew a specious smile line on his swollen face. Come in. Lao Zhao. Tell us what good things you eat in the hospital. Ouyang Tianfeng pulled Zhao Ziyue into the house. Eat something good? Why don't you ask about your big brother's suffering? Zhao Ziyue and Ouyang Tianfeng are like two kittens. You slap me with your little tail, and I touch my little ears to your little nose, playing with it innocently. Don't argue yet, Butuan said. Old Zhao, guess what? I have a secret to tell you. Let's go. Let's go to the restaurant and talk. Go to Jin Lifeng and have some old xianchen. How about it? Zhao Zi asked. You have just left the hospital. I will calm your nerves and take care of you. Ouyang will accompany you. Butuan said, guess what? If you listen to my secret, even if you are rewarded with honor and glory, wine and food are nothing. No matter who spends the money, Ouyang will eat you like a loser with a broken belly. My friend. When Ouyang Tianfeng said this, Zhao Ziyue and Wu Duan's faces were covered with a layer of golden light. They had to show their generosity and affection in front of Ouyang. Wu Duan put on a big cloak, and Zhao Ziyue changed into a mandarin jacket. The three people arrived at the Jin Lifeng mutton restaurant in a chaotic atmosphere. Mr. Zhao, Mr. Wu, Mr. Ouyang. Shopkeeper Jin Lifeng greeted them with a smile. Mr. Zhao, why haven't you been here for more than 10 days? Did you go to the presidential palace with a white flag again? How many times did you slap the president on the neck this time? Zhao Zi said with a smile but did not answer, secretly appreciating the propriety of the shopkeeper's words. The shopkeeper led the three of them to the private seats. The three of them talked and laughed with their faces raised. Even the people in the seats watched. Don't even look. It seems that people who eat a bowl of haggis and drink 2 ounces of haggis are not qualified to eat in restaurants. After entering the dining room, Zhao Zi ordered them like a big brother. Ouyang. Take your order. Lao Wu. Tell me your secret. Old Zhao. This is about you. Are you angry? Bu Tuan asked. Don't be angry. Be self-restrained. Guess what? Bu Tuan said in a low voice. Ms. Wang has given the photo to Professor Zhang. I know where the photo was taken, Langfang Tushio Guangrong Photo Gallery. 6.5 inches was $4.50 a dozen, and she washed half a dozen. Is this news valuable? Lao Zhao. Zhao Zi said speechless. Old Wu. Ouyang Tianfeng ordered the food and moved all his energy into this secret circle. Your news is absolutely true. The hard thing is that we don't dare to mess with Professor Zhang. You made it clear about the odd and the plural. Zhao Zi said, is it me or we who don't dare to offend people named Zhang? With these 2 fists, I, Lao Zhao, even if the person named Zhang has 3 heads, 6 arms and 9 tails, I don't care. A woman is not worth using a knife or a cane, I will bet on this. Besides, the person named Zhang is Ms. Wang's teacher. I want to kill this immoral dog for society. Old Zhao, forgive me. What I'm saying is that I don't dare to mess with Professor Zhang. But you are really vindictive. I am willing to help you secretly. Snort. Actually, guess what? Professor Zhang only started out selling jujubes, so why not be aggressive? Bu Tuan said. I'm not saying that Professor Zhang is definitely more powerful than us. What I'm talking about is that he is shrewd and not aggressive. Ouyang Tianfeng said to Wu Duan, and then said to Zhao Zi, as far as I can see, we are still fighting wits but not strength. What's the meaning? Zhao Zi asked. Tell me first, are you still willing to go back to school? I'm tired of studying. It doesn't matter if you go back to school or not. Of course, if you stop studying in good conscience, no one can stop you, but how can others criticize you? Ouyang Tianfeng said with a smile, don't people say, drink? Zhao Zi said he is the chairman of the Tangtang Student Union. After being expelled from school, I endured it like a cat and mouse. Old Zhao, with these 2 words, won't the reputation you have built up over the past few years be wiped out in one fell swoop? Then I have to exercise and go back to school. Zhao Zi said that his spirit was lifted a lot. Put down your books and go to serve the society. The decision was fundamentally shaken again. Of course. After you return to school, if you don't want to study, you can resign openly and openly. When you resign, ask the principal to bow 3 times behind your buttocks, and all the staff will send out the door and shout, "Long live Zhao Ziyue," 3 times. Guess what? Butuan's mental history opened another page. Principal Zhao of the University of Commerce kneeled 3 times and kowtowed 9 times to the students in the auditorium. This happened 3 months ago. I saw it with my own eyes. Kneeling 3 times and knocking 9 times. The food and wine are here. The 3 of them temporarily turned their attention to fried spring rolls and roasted lamb tails. The sounds of cups, saucers, keys, and tendons touching each other, as well as the interaction of lips, teeth, tongue, and throat, gradually became louder and louder. Those who have nothing to say don't want to say it, and those who have something to say can't, because most of the pronunciation organs are stuffed with food. This road is blocked. Listen, Ouyang Tianfeng decided to sacrifice after eating for a long time. He put a bite of fried spring rolls on the inside of his cheek, leaving a little room for his tongue to writhe. I tell you, the situation of the classmates now. You will understand your relationship with the trend in the school. Now there are more than 500 students, roughly divided into 327 parties. Some advocates supporting the principal, some advocates supporting Professor Zhang, and some advocate organizing a school committee. There are those who advocate selling off the school property and dividing the money among everyone. I can't say much at the moment. He took a breath and took off the fried spring roll stuck to his cheek and swallowed it. The main reason is the lack of powerful leaders, the lack of powerful and capable leaders like you, Lao Zhao. A famous leader. So now if you cheer up, I will ensure that the students will welcome you and obey you just like the citizens of the Republic and the real Dragon Emperor. Old Zhao, guess what? Butuan first put the last piece of fried spring roll on his plate, and then said, I heard that Germany will still be restored, it's true. Then, Ouyang Tianfeng continued, if you are determined to return to school, of course you will succeed. Because with your own strength, you can reinstate the principal. Can the principal not revoke your expulsion? After returning to school, if you don't want to resign, can the principal not bow 3 times behind your back? But, I beat the principal, and now I welcome his reinstatement. Doesn't it seem like a contradiction? Zhao Zi said that he developed a philosophical mind in the hospital. Now, he has drunk a lot of wine, and it still has mysterious effects. After all, staying in the hospital is beneficial, and he himself admits it. Isn't it this time and that time? Aren't you going to take advantage of the opportunity to defeat Professor Zhang and take back Ms. Wang? This is just a means. Who really wants to praise the old principal? How? You see, to praise the principal is to defeat Professor Zhang, and to defeat Professor Zhang is to take back Ms. Wang. Now we try to steal the photo that Ms. Wang gave to Professor Zhang, Ouyang Tianfeng said, glancing at Butuan. After stealing it, we will announce their secret in public during the all-student meeting. So, did the classmates who supported Zhang have to defect at that time? Yes. Must. At the same time, those who support the principal naturally increase their power. Then we published a few more paragraphs about Professor Zhang's erotic history in the newspaper, telling him that his reputation would be disgraced and he would no longer be able to work in the education world. If he has nothing to do, of course he can't make money. How can he do romantic things without money? Of course, everyone knows, and I don't need to tell you that money is the cornerstone of love. Wanting to fall in love without money is as hopeless as wanting to see flowers without eyes. Well, you take this opportunity. Breaking 2 hectares of land, Lao Zhao, you, are are so happy. Ms. Wang has become Mrs. Zhao. But Zhao Ziyue felt happy and sad in his heart, but he still asked with a straight face, if we do this, won't Ms. Wang's reputation also be affected? It doesn't matter. How? How many classmates do we have in total? More than 500. 557. 23 more than last semester. Butuan said. How many women are there? Ouyang Tianfeng asked. 10, one of them is lame. Wu Duan answered for Zhao Ziyue. How? How many classmates do we have in total? More than 500. 557. 23 more than last semester. Butuan said. How many women are there? Ouyang Tianfeng asked. 10, one of them is lame. Wu Duan answered for Zhao Ziyue. It's over. Women are only 2%. In other words, the value of a woman is equal to 50 men. Therefore, after the affair between a man and a woman is exposed, the man will always bear the blame and the woman will be fine, and the more noisy this is, the greater the woman's reputation and popularity. Do you understand this? My little iron cow. Dry. Zhao Zi said he was so happy that he didn't know what to say. He said two things in anger. Butuan remembered it clearly. Do it. 2. Zhao Zi said that he visited friends in the rooftop apartment every day, shaking hands, nodding, and exchanging cigarettes. Everyone feels that the soul of the rooftop apartment has been regained. During the few days when he was in the hospital, they could not even clear 3 times, while forking a sparrow. After drinking too much soju, they would just vomit and not remember to fight and become drunkenly crazy. Zhao Ziyue is back. But it's back. The first time I sat down to play cards, I got 15 hits, and the first time I drank, I got 4 broken noses. Happy. Happy. Zhao Ziyue came back today and brought back the true meaning of life. Eat wine, play cards, listen to secrets, plan the progress of the trend, and sing erhuang. Playing the huqin, fighting, scolding Li Shan, all angry. Zhao Zi was so busy that he felt dizzy and dizzy. He didn't even have time to take off his cotton pants before going to bed at night. He didn't even have time to rinse his mouth when he got up in the morning, but his mouth felt refreshed. The person surnamed Wang told him the news, and he told the person surnamed Zhang, and the person surnamed Zhang told him the news, and he told the person surnamed Kai. What he didn't say was that they sat together and talked about the good and bad of cigarettes. After talking about cigarettes, there was no more news. Start a rumor. When he woke up in the morning, his heart was clear, and he looked into Li Jingxuan's house through the small glass window. However, he said, this kid Lao Li had an affair with Ms. Wang and deserves to be killed. Moreover, ever since he came out of the hospital, his friends have always called him a patriot and a patriot with their thumbs up. Hero. Only Li Jingchun never praised him even once. In the new society, there are 2 major forces, warlords and students. Warlords don't fight foreigners, but they are worth 3 belts to anyone they see. Students don't fight warlords except warlords. Everyone you see is worth a cane. So these 2 major forces moved forward hand in hand, allowing the common people to experience some new weaponism. If a warlord who does not attack foreigners does not bully civilians, he is simply not qualified to be a warlord. Students who do not fight against warlords or principals and teachers are not considered ambitious young people. Li Jingchun was the only one who didn't praise Zhao Ziyu's martial arts. Only Li Jingchun is a waste who doesn't understand new trends. As for Zhao Zi said he beat the principal. And the warlord hit Zhao Zi again? Zhao Zi said that he had never thought about this problem before, and it was not worth thinking about. 3. Time flies by with the wind and sand of winter, and it is already the Lunar New Year in a hurry. Zhao Zi said that he was busy all day long. The calendar card in the room has not been torn off since I entered the hospital. But the sound of firecrackers on the street made him have to admit that it was the New Year. All his friends in the apartment went home to celebrate the New Year with happy faces, and only Zhao Zi was left. Ouyang Dafeng and Li Jingchun. Zhao Zi said that he swore not to eat dumplings made by his little-footed wife. It was not that he had any grudge against the dumplings, but that he hated the dumpling maker. He had a good term for this move: boycott the family goods. As for Ouyang Tianfeng, firstly, he was homeless, and secondly, he happened to be playing cards in Beijing during the New Year to earn more money. Li Jingchun got his mother's letter that she didn't want him to run home in the cold winter, and he himself was willing to take advantage of the annual vacation to study more. They understand and love each other, so they decide not to meet each other on New Year's Day. Lunar New Year's Eve. Zhao Zi said he was so lonely that he was going to die. Lying in bed? The sound of firecrackers outside shook his sleepiness. Go shopping on the street? The leather robe was taken away by Ouyang Tianfeng. Probably put it in a pawn shop temporarily. Wearing a cotton robe and going out on the street, even if you have the courage, is it an insult to mankind? There are 3 bottles of soju and a dozen kinds of dried fruit snacks on the table, but I have no intention of touching them. For the sake of the country and society, it is better not to touch them, otherwise. When drinking alcohol makes me sad, I feel suicidal again. How can I live like this? At around 1 o'clock, Li Jingchun was still reading in the south room. Inhumane. Zhao Ziyue opened the door several times to shout, "Old Li." He took it back when he reached his lips. Dang! It's 2 o'clock. He plucked up the courage, picked up a bottle of wine and some dried fruits, and ran towards the south room. Old Li. Old Li. Come in, Lao Zhao. I'm going to die of suffocation. Let's have a drink. Okay, let me drink a little with you. Just a little, I can't drink enough. Old Li. Good friend. Zhao Ziyue drank 2 glasses of wine and became affectionate with Li Jingchun a lot more. Tell me about your relationship with Ms. Wang. Our friendship is very important, so we can't fall in love with a woman, right? Me and Ms. Wang Lingshi? It doesn't matter. Good. Lao Li, you are a domineering person and don't treat me like a true friend. Old Zhao. We have not received the education of free communication between men and women since childhood. We do not understand what the relationship between men and women is. Let's talk about something else. 4. Sir. If you don't give more for the New Year's Eve, why don't you give less? A rickshaw driver shouted outside the apartment. You bastard. Your Majesty gave me less money. Ouyang Tianfeng's voice sounded. Sir, if you want to curse, I will beat you. How dare you, your grandma. Ouyang Tianfeng's tongue seemed to be curled up as he spoke. Zhao Zi said, putting down the wine glass. It pounced like a tiger on its prey. When I ran outside the street gate, I saw the rickshaw driver pulling Ouyang Tianfeng's arm and trying to use force. Ouyang Tianfeng staggered out and grabbed his arm. The electric light outside the apartment door is used to celebrate the new year. A red gauze lampshade was specially put on. The red light illuminated Ouyang Tianfeng's pink face even more beautifully. The coachman's head was covered with sweat, and white gas came out of his mouth, which condensed into water droplets on the messy beard on his lips. This coachman standing under the red light not only does not show that there is anything to celebrate in the new year, but it actually makes the bleakness of life a bit thicker. "How dare you, pull the cart?" Zhao Ziyue pointed at the cart driver and said. "Sir, you understand. I negotiated 30 coppers to get here, and now he gives me 18. Reasonable or not, you are the teacher?" The coachman said while panting. "How much do you owe?" Li Jingchun also ran out and asked, 12. "Gentlemen." Li Jingchun took out a 20 copper note and gave it to the puller. "Thank you, sir. This is the man who got promoted and made a fortune. Don't be like him. The driver pulled up the cart and walked out of the alley in a clear voice. Ouyang Tianfeng's face turned red from drinking, like 2 red rose petals. He laid his face on Zhao Ziyue's shoulder, and the fragrant smell of wine spread outwards, making Zhao Ziyue's heart feel like a ball of yellow wax melted by the hot air. Old Zhao. Old Zhao. I can't live. Die. Die. Ouyang Tianfeng said with his eyes closed, half crying and half laughing. Old Zhao. Let's help him and tell him to go to sleep. Li Jingchun said in a low voice. The sky is full of stars, and every now and then a star of fireworks shoots up in the sky, joining the scattered starlight. Fireworks scattered. The darkness in the sky looks infinitely bleak. The people on the street were noisy. Neighbors are cutting and cooking stuffing for pastry. The trumpet of Yonghe Temple blows with the north wind from time to time. From time to time, several children begging for food outside the door shouted, "Here comes the god of wealth," which made the puppies nearby bark non-stop. These sounds make the travelers feel homesick. Beijing at night. Almost only the night of New Year's Eve is so lively. This unusual noise made people have a special feeling. Zhao Ziyue stood in the courtyard for a long time, nodded and sighed. 7th. 1. Mo Danian spent the new year at a relative's house in Beijing. In addition to enjoying wine and meat, he focused on finding out some secrets so that he could gain some honors when he returned to his apartment. It was the evening of the 3rd day of the first lunar month. A crescent moon in the southwest corner of the sky just smiled and then disappeared. After dinner, Mo Danian said to his relatives, "Go visit the Qingnan amusement park." He went to the kitchen and drank a small amount of Mensi Shaojiu, carrying it around his waist. All the shops on the street were closed. The apprentices in the pork shop were beating gongs and drums and playing butcher music, which sounded murderous. The door of the small wine shop was ajar, and a few homeless drunkards shouted like little donkeys in the new year, "Hello, brothers. Get rich all year round." There were almost no pedestrians on the road except for the patrol policemen lining up. Occasionally, 1 or 2 motorcycles would fly by, and a whole team of patrol officers would be busy getting out of the way, showing that there was still some movement on the street, and not the whole city. As a result of excessive food and wine during the new year, everyone suffered from diarrhea at home. Besides, from time to time, I heard the sad but hopeful car. Mo Danian paced back and forth, feeling that it was already past 10 o'clock, and began to walk towards Dongximen with long strides. Walking to Baixinkyo, I looked east at the dark city tower. She looked like an old nurse who was tired of her life. She was half dozing off and looking at the group of patients who had eaten too much and had stomach problems. Buzz dash, buzz, Yongha. The sound of the palace. It's like being blown to ghosts in hell. Mo Danian shook his head and walked north from Baixinkyo. When he reached the east entrance of Zhangjia Hutong, he looked around before entering the alley entrance. The street lights in the alley are very shy and modest, and I dare not shine too much. Only a green circle about 1 foot wide was illuminated. There is a light 18 or 10 feet away. Except for the short-sighted, no one dares to complain that the police district does not do public welfare, as long as you are lucky enough not to walk up the arrow. Mo Danian walked in the shadows for 5 or 6 minutes. About to reach the destination. He took out a match and pretended to light a cigarette, then took a photo of number 62 on the door of a house in London. He touched the south wall and walked forward. When he reached number 60, he stood still. There was no sound of anyone around, and he slowly climbed up the steps. I put my ear to the street door and listened, but there was no movement inside. He tried pushing the door, but it was ajar and opened a little. He hurriedly walked down the steps, his heart pounding, and a layer of sweat broke out on his forehead. The clanging knife chain sounded. A patrolman came from the west. Mo Danian wanted to run eastward, but something happened in his heart. He calmed down for a few seconds, then turned around to meet the patrolman. "Borrow the light. Is this number 60? It doesn't look real in the shadows." "Not bad, sir." The patrolman did not stop and walked eastward. Mo Danian waited for the patrolman to go away and then went up the steps again. I dared to push the door open gently, and the doorway was as dark as a black curtain made by a group of ghosts. He tried to walk in step by step. Apart from the clicking of his own teeth, no other sound could be heard. After exiting the doorway, there is a small tree to the west. 3 or 4 feet away from the small tree is the boundary wall. To the west of the tree is the north room. The doorway and the gable of the north room formed a small alley sandwiching the small tree. He leaned against the wall of the north room and looked around. There was no light at all in the north room, but he could vaguely see the west room, which was probably 2 rooms, slightly bright. Not a candle, but a flickering fire in the furnace. He calmed down, returned to the small tree, leaned his back on the trunk, took out the small bottle of wine and took a sip of the wine. After swallowing the wine, I shivered and felt refreshed. He planned. "She's not home? Still asleep? Can't sleep, the street door is not closed yet. Wait for her to come back. But how to ask her? She knows me, right? But what if she is suspicious and calls the patrol to take me?" He took another sip of wine. "Me? Take a morning run." He took Xiaojiu Menzi away and was about to run out. There was a ring at the street door. If his heart hadn't been blocked by the mechanism in his throat, it would have jumped out of his mouth. He was leaning against the tree trunk, holding his breath, and his legs were shaking in his pants. After the street door opened, the sound of footsteps like 2 people came in. But he stopped before he even got out of the cave. A female voice said in a low and anxious voice, "Go. Go. Otherwise, I'll call the patrol." "I can't leave, you have to promise me that," a man's voice said. Mo Danian listened carefully. It was pitch black before his eyes, and the 2 people outside were muttering, and he didn't know if this was a dream or a real thing. "I'm calling the patrol," the woman said harshly again. "I'm not afraid of embarrassment. You are. You shout. You shout. The man threatened in a low voice. That man's voice. It sounded strangely familiar to Mo Danian, and he felt much calmer. He turned his head slightly and looked outside, but couldn't see anything. The two people seemed to be standing on the steps of the doorway, just hidden by the walls. The two men were silent for a long time. Suddenly the woman ran towards the courtyard. The man hurried forward a few steps and stopped when he reached the wall of the main room. The woman ran to the window of the west room and shouted in a low voice, "Aunt Qian! Aunt Qian!" Ah! An old woman in the west room seemed to wake up from a dream. "Aunt Qian, get up. Miss Wang, what's wrong?" "I'm leaving. Let me go," the man seemed to be saying to himself. But Mo Danian listened seriously. After speaking, he walked out slowly. "Give me 2 matches, Aunt Qian," the woman said to the old woman in the house. Mo Danian's heart moved, so he climbed under the tree roots to the north wall and put his ear to the ground to listen. The thumping footsteps outside the wall were heading west. He listened to the two women in the courtyard talking in harmony. He climbed to the door and rolled out like a ball of hair. After walking out of the street, his heart dropped with a thump, and he ran eastward like crazy because of his love. I ran to Baixinkyo in one breath. There was only one foreign car lying on the roadside. Foreign car. Jiadeaku. 40 cents. Sir, pull over here. He hid under the eaves of a shop and stared at the gas lamp at the crossroads. A man came from the north. By the light of the gas lamp, he could even see his clothes clearly. Yes, it's him. 2. The morning of the 4th day of the Lunar New Year. Li Shungang got up to clean the door, and Mo Danian walked into the alley with sweat on his head. Xinshi. Mr. Mo. Why are you up so early? Li Shun asked. Is Mr. Zhao here? Xinshi. Li Shun. Still asleep. Come on, Li Shun. Take this $1. Buy a red pomegranate flower for your wife to wear. After Mo Danian discovered the secret at night, everyone he saw seemed worthy of $1, and when he saw Li Shunkai, he started to put it into practice. Then there is such a thing, sir. Li Shun said, taking the money and turning it in his hand. Hidden deep in your pocket. Thank you, sir. I wish you a happy new year. How can you say this? Really? Mr. Mo. New Year's greetings. Chun Er, who sells sweet potatoes, carries a load of brown sugar haws from the mountains, and some small kites. Temporarily changed my career during the new year, and went out of the city to catch the temple fair. Xinshi. Spring air. Great work on the candied haws. Come. Give me a bunch of Mr. Filial Piety. The real Ming tombs are as red as the mountains and never give up. Chun Er selected a bunch of candied haws, made a bow, said goodbye, and handed it to Mo Danian. But Li Shun hurriedly took it. Chun Er, I'll give you these 40 cents. Hey. My husband. The god of wealth. I hope you will marry a happy and beautiful grandma, the god of wealth. Wow, puff, wow, wow, puff, puff, the Jinwan palace said as if the river was overflowing. Old Zhao. New joy. New joy. Mo Danian walked past number 3. Wow, pft. New, poof. How was your new year? Mo Danian entered number 3. There was a white circle, tooth powder, around Zhao Ziyue's lips, as if he had just kissed the grinder of the mill. No question. Suffocate to death. All of you who have homes and temples, go and enjoy your blessings. Who cares about me, a lonely soul without an owner? Zhao Zi said that he had finished rinsing his mouth and started to wash his face with all his teeth and claws. Where is Ouyang? Mo Danian asked in a low voice. Probably still sleeping. Let's go shopping today, okay? Is that okay? Mo Danian was afraid that Zhao Zi would say no, so he stood behind him and asked 3 or 4 times, "Is it okay?" in order to make Zhao Ziyue understand that this request can only be approved but not rejected. Where are you going? Whatever. Apart from traveling. I have a secret to tell you. Go to Baiyun Temple? Good. Hurry up. Just leave, don't wait for the wind to blow. Mo Danian urged Zhao Ziyue to leave quickly, fearing that Ouyang Tianfeng would blow up and break his plan. Zhao Ziyue was tortured by the loneliness of the new year, and he only wanted a friend to come. Don't dare to be indifferent to Mo Danian. I was busy wiping my face, getting dressed, and putting on my hat. After finishing dressing up, I looked in the mirror. There was still a ball of white foam hanging from my left ear. 3. People feel warm in their hearts, but in fact the weather is still very cold. Especially the people who visit the temple fair, whether on foot or by car, are all in a lively spirit. On the yellow sand road outside Ping's gate, there are village girls riding donkeys and city ladies wrapped in silk and satin. They all smiled and went to Baiyun Ancient Temple for a while. Eating, drinking, playing, and shopping is the enjoyment of life in the new year. The so-called shopping means squeezing, and the purpose of shopping is achieved by squeezing until you are sweating. The light blue mountains are like a green screen in the west. The old pine trees on the ancient tombs poked out their green branches in strange ways. On some branches hung a torn little red kite, as simple and beautiful as an old lady wearing a small red silk flower. The rustling of hooves and the tinkling of bells on the road. The little donkeys seemed to be composing poems as they walked, so rhythmic. However, these beautiful scenery are not within the scope of shopping. The pretty ladies in the tea shed, the village girls in red jackets and green trousers at the bean juice stall, the sugar gamblers outside the temple gate. The old Taoist who smokes foreign cigarettes, the old Taoist priest who only cares about the copper and is not afraid of being beaten sitting under the bridge in the temple, these are the ones worth seeing. Baiyun Temple has the history and characteristics of Baiyun Temple, and Dazhong Temple has the historical sights and wonders of Dazhong Temple. But people who go shopping are always drinking bean juice, gambling on sugar, and betting on foreign cigarettes. The liveliness and crowding of Dazhong Temple and Baiyun Temple are the purpose of visiting. It doesn't matter whether they are historic or not. The tea shed in Baiyungwen shouted the same as those in Haiwang village, "Here you are. Gao Sa has a bright eye, you have to take a look." What are you looking at? What are you looking at? This question needs to be proved like this. Suppose a tea servant in a tea shed shouts, "We have to see the western hills from here. It's quiet here. I'm sure there isn't a caretaker in this tea shed. Therefore, it is not necessary to describe the temple fairs in Beijing one by one. It is enough to say, there are so many people that a lot of women's shoes are squeezed out. Although there are some stereotypes in describing it this way, it is the fact and it must be written this way. Zhao Ziyue and Mo Danian arrived at the very lively Baiyun Temple. Mo Danian suggested eating something and drinking some tea in the tea shed first. It wasn't that he was hungry, but that the secrets he harbored in his heart were pushing out like a pair of small horns. Zhao Zi said he was really hungry. He smelled the barbecued pork in the tea shed and couldn't stop playing music in his stomach. Old Zhao. Should I say something? Mo Danian asked as soon as the two of them sat down and before they could order snacks and tea. Don't be busy. Order some food first. Anyway, your secret is nothing more than jelly beans and jujubes. Zhao Ziyue said with a smile, and then ordered some hard noodle roasted pork, barbecued pork, and 2 pots of dried vegetables. Old Zhao, don't underestimate people. Let me ask you, were you and Ouyang together yesterday? No. It's over. I saw him. Not only him, but also her. Mo Danian was very happy, and the blush on his face was really no weaker than the red cotton-padded jacket of a village girl visiting the temple. Who? Zhao Zi said that whenever he heard the word next to it, it would always be the same as by Ganjiu, which would arouse a strange excitement in his heart. He opened his mouth and wanted to ask again, who? Ms. Wang. But they too are good friends. I have never seen such a good friend. His attitude towards her is not what friends should have, let alone what a man should have towards a woman. Mo Danian recounted the night's adventure in detail, and then said sincerely, Old Zhao. I, old Mo, am a fool. Let me tell you a silly thing. Find something to do or go home quickly. There is no need to wade through muddy waters again. That boy Ouyang is unreliable. But I have to investigate myself, right? What if the content of this matter is not what you think? Besides, should I just let go of school matters? Go home? Zhao Ziyue showed some arrogance and took a sip of wine. The school will be disbanded in the future. Mo Danian said firmly. How do you know? Li Jingchun said that. Listen to him. Old Zhao, yes. I'm done. If you like to visit temples, you can do it by yourself. I'll go back to the apartment and go to sleep. Listen to me and go to a clean place quickly. Don't wade in the muddy water again. See you later. 8th. 1. Zhao Ziyue was sitting in the second-class car, with a half-sized foreign-style leather suitcase beside him, and a pair of blue satin shoes placed in the suitcase with great difficulty. During the 10 minutes it took for the train to leave the East Station, he didn't think about anything else. I just secretly admired this train that went very fast without being pulled by a donkey. Glorify my ancestors. Our ancestors have never even seen a train, let alone take a train. The invention of the natural train is the glory of scientists, but it is my obligation to praise the train. He looked at the passengers in the car. Some had their mouths wide open and yawned like traveling, as if they had prepared a few yawns in the car before getting on the bus. Some were holding Zhang Xincheng. Note, Zhang Xincheng, category refers to the pornographic novels that were popular at the time. Zhang is a representative figure in writing this kind of novel. And other literature books on the station, while their eyes were staring blankly at the legs of the female guests opposite. Some held Luzon cigarettes in their mouths and took out their gold watches to take a look every 3 minutes. Tacky. Hate. He looked back from a distance and saw the foreign-style suitcase beside him. He felt that it was only he who had the qualifications and status to ride in the second-class train. Mo Danian's words are indeed somewhat reliable, but boring. Stuffy. The train blew its whistle twice. Escape like this. Don't you want to break Ouyang's heart? But the train passed a small iron bridge. Ms. Wang? It's useless to even think about it. He looked out the window. The houses, trees, and telephone poles were all moving backwards. Huh. The car arrived at Langfang. He felt some new interest and hope, and gradually buried what he was thinking north of the Langfang deep in his mind, and planned everything for the future. Has Zhou Shaolian received my letter? Express letter? At least a few porters should be required to carry this box. Maybe 2 are enough? Fortunately, there is only 1 pair of satin shoes. When you get off the train and hire a foreign car, is it a motorcycle? Of course it's a motorcycle. Taking a second-class car and hiring a foreign car is not like a sentence. When the bus arrived at Lealongtu, the passengers carried their luggage, took out their tickets, called the porters, looked at their watches, and yawned for the last time. There was a fuss. Zhao Zi said that he was sitting calmly in the car, waiting for the porter to come and carry the suitcase. He looked at the hustle and bustle of others and couldn't help but smile. You have no self-cultivation. Confucius. Confucius, shouted twice on the platform, sharp and unpleasant like the teeth of a steel file. Zhao Ziyue looked around following the voice. Zhou Shaolian was pushing forward in the crowd. He was wearing a blue uniform and an octagonal bachelor's hat on his head, with a gossip embroidered in gold thread on the top of the hat. Zhao Zi said that he was looking at Zhou Shaolian's new outfit. I couldn't help but laugh. I said in my heart, really reform the Bagua cult bandits. Old Zhou. Call the porter to move the box. Zhou Shaolian jumped onto the car with 2 thin legs like straw, fat heart and thin legs, brave and dangerous. He shook hands with Zhao Ziyue. He widened the smile lines in his 2 smiling eyes, raised his nose, and expanded his crying style, and then lifted his suitcase. Wait for the porters to move. Zhao Zi said, not because he was afraid that Zhou Shaolian would get hurt, but because he was afraid of losing his status. It's not heavy. This golden box looks just like an empty one. Zhou Shaolian carried the box and walked out, and Zhao Ziyue had no choice but to follow. Is this going well? Red folks? Very pessimistic. Zhao Zi said. In fact, not asking the porters to move the boxes is also a sad thing. Dash. The 2 people walked out of the platform while talking. Zhao Ziyue took a few steps forward and called a motorcycle over. He first asked Zhou Shaolian to get in the car, then he held the car door and looked around, smiled, and bent down to get in the car. Dharma Realm, Shini University. 2. Tianjin, Dharma Realm, Shini University is famous all over the world for its Book of Changes. Note, Book of Changes, one of the 5 classics, also known as Book of Changes, is an ancient work for divination of good and bad luck. It is composed of hexagrams and lines. 2 kinds of symbols and hexagrams. Yao Ci is composed of 2 kinds of words. Research and invent for the subject, all science and philosophy. Shini University has 8 subjects: philosophy, literature, psychology, geology, mechanics, electrical, education and politics. Students first study the Book of Changes for 2 years before entering school. Read the Book of Changes in a catchy way, and then allow it to be divided into subjects. Which subject to enter is determined by the principal's divination. The lecture notes for each subject are compiled according to the procedures of the 64 hexagrams. Due to copyright issues, I dare not copy the lecture notes that are sacred and cannot be violated. Besides, the principles are too profound and cannot be understood by ordinary people. I can only explain some of the most superficial principles. It is composed of 2 symbols, hexagram and line, and 2 words, hexagram and line. According to the 2 hexagrams of Qian and Kuan, the geology department of Shini University says this: he is the cross-sectional diagram of the strata, and traces of stratigraphic divisions can be particularly seen in the Kuan hexagram. If it is drawn like this, it is a vertical diagram of the strata. What the Bible says. Don't use hidden dragons on the 9th day of the lunar month, and see dragons in the fields on the 2nd day of the lunar month, which undoubtedly indicate that ancient biological fossils are buried in the strata. The so-called hidden dragons, and the so-called in the fields, do not mean that ancient biological fossils are buried in the ground. Are you in the ground? The so-called 9th day and 2nd day don't refer to the layers of the ground. Besides, dragons are ancient creatures, otherwise, why not say, I saw a cat in the field? If we move these 2 hexagrams into mechanics, that is the explanation of the yin and yang screws. If the 2 hexagrams are drawn like this, aren't these 2 screws? Put them all in one place. Isn't it a picture of a screw drilling through a piece of wood? Then, when applying the 64 hexagrams to electrical science, it is even more surprising to see the inaccessibility of ancient Chinese civilization. Fuxi's hexagrams had already invented the function of yin and yang electricity. Ho Xing Yan Gua has invented the telegraph. The 64 hexagrams are different power collection and generators. The names of the 64 hexagrams of Qian Kuan Feitai are the telegram numbers, just like the so-called forgive telegrams and sexual telegrams in newspapers today. Short and sharp phrases in the scriptures. It has the same meaning as the simple words in today's telegrams, such as, Li will see you, Li will go there, and Li will cross the great river. They just say, the person named Li has met the Lord, the person named Li has already set off, and the person named Li has already set off. Cross the river profitably. As for the person named Li, although he is not sure whether he is an ancient bank king or a coal and iron king, there is no doubt that he is a big shot, because the Bible says, Li is hard and honest, several times. That does not mean that the person with the surname Li is a man who can endure hardships and is trustworthy. The campus of Shini University was built according to the Meng hexagram in the Book of Changes. The intention is, if I don't ask for Tongmeng, Tongmeng asks for me. To put it more simply, those who come here to study must abide by all the rules. If you have such determination, come. If you don't want to be restrained like this, let's go. This is what we will do. If you come, it will count as your intention to do good. If you don't come, you will be kicked down. With such a purpose and the good feng shui of the school site, during the nationwide student unrest, only the teachers and students of Shini University continued to sing and practice music. The first floor is the office, principal's room and staff room. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 6th floors are classrooms for 8 subjects. The 5th floor is the student dormitory and library. The surrounding boundary walls are covered with Bagua paintings, and on the door tower of the main gate hangs a symbol of the innate Tai Chi. It turned out that these things were just some decorations, but I knew they had a secret effect. Ever since the 8 diagrams were painted on the boundary wall and the counterweights on the door were hung, the business of the Sino-French bank opposite had been declining day by day. In less than 2 years, a well-capitalized bank was forced out of business. Although the French refused to admit that these little things were effective, the fact remains. Public opinion in the society all thinks that Shini University is China's hope for defeating the world's powers without using weapons in the future. When the car arrived at the gate of Shini University, Zhao Ziyue paid the fare and Zhou Shaolian picked up the suitcase. The two people walked to the student dormitory. Zhao Zi looked around and saw that there was a cold wind and misery everywhere. Although there were no cries of ghosts or gods, the silence was enough to make him break out in a cold sweat. Old Zhou. How many students are there now? 15. 15? Aren't you afraid of living in such a big yard? There is a Tai Chi diagram guarding the gate, so what are you afraid of? Zhou Shaolian said solemnly. Zhao Ziyue, who was doubtful, mustered up some courage and followed Zhou Shaolian to the dormitory without saying a word. In addition to a wooden bed, there is also an ancient chair standing against the wall. It cannot stand without the wall because it has 3 legs. There is a small table next to the window, with a bronze incense burner on it, and some melon seed peels placed in the burner. Under the table were a small charcoal basin and a dark green chamber pot. There are patches of yellow-green dry moss on the wall in various forms. Zhou Shaolian used chalk to press the moss marks and draw them into little tortoises, little rabbits, and pouting little devils. Rats who are not afraid of people on the paper shed make a squeaking sound by chewing on the paper, and sometimes they even fight loudly. Shoot! 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 Was heard outside the house very steadily, as if there were 2 ghosts playing chess there. Old Zhou. What is this noise? Zhao Zi said, sitting on the bed. The hair stands straight up. Old Lu is placing Shantian's Book of Changes in the room. Old Zhao, I'll make tea for you. Zhou Shaolian said, looking down on the bed for a long time, and found the teapot where the chamber pot should be. You drink the light green Longjing. Deep red scented tablets, or transparent, colorless white water. It doesn't matter, Lao Zhou. Zhou Shaolian went out to make tea, and Zhao Zi said his heart was pounding. Shoot! 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 The sound next door was still so steady and miserable, and Zhao Ziyue gradually became unable to sit still. Just as he was about to go out to the yard and wait for Zhou Shaolian, the neighbor next door suddenly laughed like a clam for a while, and he sat down again. Zhou Shaolian went away for a quarter of an hour before coming back, holding a teapot in one hand and 2 tea bowls in the other. Old Zhao, why are you so pale? Zhou Shaolian asked. I'm probably tired, so I'll have a bowl of tea and then go out to find a hotel. Zhao Ziyue said in his heart, if I stay here for 1 night, I'll be crushed to death by a ghost. Tell me, why are you looking for a hotel when you live here? Zhou Shaolian started to laugh more and more like crying. The more you cry, the more you laugh. When I wrote to you, I planned to stay here, but now I'm afraid of disturbing your studies, so I might as well stay in a hotel. Zhao Zi said. I'm on annual leave now, it's okay, I don't have to work hard, I don't have to work hard. Zhou Shaolian said while pouring tea. We'll talk about it when we get back. Let's drink tea first. Zhao Zi said, picking up the tea. There was no trace of heat in the bowl. There is only a thin tea leaf floating on the tea which is slightly yellower than plain water. Zhao Zi said, look at this bowl of tea. I am more determined to stay in a hotel. He tried to take a mouthful, pretended to rinse his mouth, opened the door and spat on the ground. The purpose of your visit this time? Confucius said. Zhou Shaolian said, tilting his neck to drink a bowl of herbal tea, and then straightened his back. It seems that the herbal tea keeps going. I want to find something to do. I'm tired of reading. What are you looking for? Uncertain. What if I can't find it? Zhao Zi said without answering. Zhou Shaolian's sentences follow each other, while Zhao Ziyue's sentences are lazy and lazy. I just want to go out. The two were silent for a long time, but Zhou Shaolian spoke first. What do you eat? Master said. Shaolian, I'll go out to eat something and find a hotel. Don't bother. Shall I go with you to find a hotel? I have a hotel.